Chapter 5604. Noticing the change in Shen Yaolong's expression, Gu Yanran couldn't help but ask, "Master Shen, do you know the reason?" Penglai Island has a medicine that can treat wounds caused by dark energy. Since they've been to Penglai Island, it's normal for them to have this medicine in their hands. Shen Yaolong's expression was relaxed. Actually, he didn't kill Wen Jinghui in the first place, but dark energy was the most difficult to treat. Once this problem was solved, everything else would no longer be a problem. However, since Wen Jinghui already knows how powerful I am, he actually still dares to do this. He's truly courting death. Shen Yaolong's long and narrow eyes narrowed slightly, and his face was filled with viciousness. Him being willing to let Wen Jinghui live was already a great mercy, and now he actually dared to not appreciate it. That's right. Gu Yanran gnashed his teeth and said, "These fellows are so detestable. Master Shen, we absolutely can't let them off." Just thinking about how he was knocked out by a junior in front of so many people, he couldn't control his anger. If he didn't take revenge for this, he wouldn't be Gu Yanran. "Don't worry." Shen Yaolong turned around and looked at the sunset outside the house. His voice was cold without the slightest bit of warmth. "I will take all their lives." Hearing this, Gu Yanran's face revealed a smile. This was the result he wanted the most. He wanted to let this group of ignorant fellows know how wrong of a decision they made today. However, he wouldn't give them any chance to regret it. This day was destined to not be a peaceful day. After the Cloud Sword sect spread the ancient profound sect's plot, all the forces understood everything in a short period of time. This undoubtedly caused a huge commotion, and because it was too sensational, some people couldn't help but wonder if this was fake. Although the ancient profound sect's strength isn't weak, they usually don't do things that stand out. This time, they actually caused such a big matter. Isn't it a bit too unbelievable? I think it might not be groundless. It's impossible for the Cloud Sword sect to make up such a reason. According to what I know, Gu Yanran of the ancient profound sect did indeed go to the Cloud Sword sect that day. Normally, the ancient profound sect doesn't have much contact with the Cloud Sword sect. This is truly too strange. Even though many people had doubts in their hearts, more people still chose to believe it. Because if there wasn't such a thing, it was impossible to make up such a strange story even if it was made up a reason. In the blink of an eye, the appointed time had already arrived. The 7 days promise had already spread among the various major forces. If it was said that they still had an indifferent attitude before, then now that they understood the purpose of the ancient profound sect, they could no longer treat it as if nothing had happened. Because this was related to their own interests. Once the ancient profound sect controlled the Cloud Sword sect, their strength would become even stronger. No one was willing to allow their own forces to be devoured by others. So when this day arrived, many leaders of forces came to the vicinity of the Cloud Sword sect. Ins, TT because, SSDS, S's, because the, TTT. Chapter 5605. I'm afraid today will be a rare lively day for our Cloud Sword sect. Xiren couldn't help but sigh with a hint of ridicule in his calm voice. He also knew that his father had sent many letters to other forces, but they were all rejected. Now that this matter was related to their own interests, they all sighed with emotion. This was really the reality. After sensing the familiar auras outside, Wen Jinghui's gaze became gloomy and complicated. These old fellows are really getting more and more shameless. Since they rejected me, they should pretend to be more serious. Today they actually came by themselves. What a joke. He originally thought that those old fellows would stop after coming up with such a strange reason. But he didn't expect that there would be even more exaggerated things behind. Perhaps, they would find another lie to cover it up later. I think they should have come together after discussing it. Situ Yen shook his head and patted Wen Jinghui's back. It's every man for himself. It's not strange for them to be like this. Although they had lived for so long and had to have some face in front of the interests of the entire force, this face didn't seem that important. Father, all of them are gathered outside the sect. Should we let them in? When Xiren pondered and asked. Wen Jinghui raised his right hand. No need. Now that the people from the ancient profound sect haven't arrived, they don't dare to come in? At this time, they don't want to have anything to do with us. He knew too well that these fellows were obviously treating them as a touchstone. Your father is right. Let's wait until the people from the ancient profound sect arrive. Lan Yunxiao's voice was calm and indifferent. It would be a good show later. At the same time, it was especially lively outside the sect. I wonder when the people from the ancient profound sect will arrive. Is it appropriate for us to stay here like this? What's inappropriate about this? Today's matter is extremely important. Only by figuring it out can we be at ease. But if we see Sect Master win later, we'll really have no face. The few of them looked at each other with embarrassment. They had just replied that they didn't have time, and now they were here. Wasn't this slapping their own faces? However, they didn't have any other way. While everyone was discussing, Gu Yanran and Xin Yaolong's figures slowly appeared in everyone's line of sight. Behind the two of them was a row of ancient profound sect cultivators. At this moment, all of them had their heads held high and their chests puffed out. Their arrogant expressions made the leaders of the various factions feel very unhappy. The cultivators of the ancient profound sect were filled with confidence at this moment. Ever since this Master Shun came to the sect, the status of the sect had been rapidly rising. Those fellows that went against the sect in the past had restrained themselves greatly now. Most importantly, they'd come here today for the sake of subduing the entire Cloudword sect. Just thinking about it filled their hearts with pride. How strong was the Cloudsword sect? But from today onwards, he was going to become a subsidiary of the ancient profound sect. The status of these people would naturally rise as well. In the past, when they met the leaders of these forces, they could only be respectful. But now when they thought about how these forces would all be under their control, they no longer had the respect they had in the past. Chapter 5606. Xin Yaolong felt the surrounding gazes on him, and his eyes were filled with disdain and pride. He didn't care about these so-called leaders of the forces at all. Master Shen, it is said that when Jinghui spread everything I said that day, so there are so many people here today. I think they all want to understand the situation. As if worried that Xin Yaolong would be unhappy, Gu Yanran hurriedly explained the reason for the matter. Hearing this, Shen Yaolong was very calm. It's good to let them see the situation today. When the time comes, you won't have to waste your breath. You're right. These guys won't shed tears until they see the coffin. When they see Master Shun's strength, they'll naturally understand. As Gu Yanran and his group got closer and closer to the gate of the Cloud Sword sect, the leaders of the forces outside could not hold back anymore. They came here today to understand the strength of Master Shun and the others. If Shen Yaolong and the others went in like this, wouldn't they not be able to see anything? If they suggested that the Cloud Sword sect let everyone in, it seemed to be a bit hard to say. After thinking about it, the only way was to figure out Shen Yaolong's strength outside the sect. Gu Yanran, I heard that you plan to annex the forces of the Shengxian continent. Is this true? The sect master of the Azure Cloud sect looked at Gu Yanran and asked first. As soon as these words came out, everyone's gaze fell on Gu Yanran. If it was said that Gu Yanran had come here today for the sake of his personal enmity with the Cloud Sword sect, then they could completely disregard it. But if all of this was true, then everyone couldn't think of nothing. Feeling the gazes that were fixed on him, Gu Yanran smiled calmly. That's right, I do have such a plan. His calm voice was arrogant and insufferably arrogant. That contemptuous look seemed to not put anyone present in his eyes. After the disciples of the ancient profound sect felt the sect master's attitude, they became even more proud. In the future, their ancient profound sect would become an existence that looked down on all forces. The sect master of the Azure Cloud sect obviously didn't expect Gu Yanran to admit it so easily. He didn't even have the slightest intention of hiding it, and was instantly dumbfounded. When the others saw this scene, they also sucked in a breath of cold air. They didn't expect all of this to be true. In the face of Gu Yanran's arrogant tone, anger burned in everyone's hearts. Gu Yanran, you're too arrogant. So what if I'm arrogant? Gu Yanran sneered. I came here today to subdue the Cloud Sword sect first. As for you guys, wait for my ancient profound sect to subdue you one by one. Here, I would like to introduce to all of you the chief elder of our ancient Xian sect, Shen Yaolong. I don't care about your nonsense. Guyanran, I advise you to stop dreaming. Otherwise, the one that will be exterminated will be your Gu Xian sect. You're truly a wolf with wild ambitions. Dream on. Trying to swallow all the other forces? What a joke. Everyone mocked in disdain. This kind of thing, just thinking about it, knew that it was simply impossible. Chapter 5607. Hearing this, Shen Yaolong glanced at the surrounding people and said disdainfully, "You bunch of trash, let me remind you first. If you obediently hand over your forces, I can let you live. Otherwise, your outcome will be the same as Cloud Sword Sect's Wen Jinghui, becoming a complete dead man." Following Shen Yaolong's words, everyone was stunned as they looked at this arrogant fellow in front of them in disbelief. Standing in this position for so many years, they had never seen such an arrogant fellow. "Shen Yaolong, you're too arrogant." The Azure Cloud Sect's sect master could no longer hold it in. His figure moved and directly charged towards Shen Yaolong. "Let me meet you and see how strong you are to actually dare to say such words." Facing the figure that was rapidly approaching, a trace of disdain flashed across Shen Yaolong's eyes. He just stood there without moving, and did not have the slightest intention of dodging. Only when the opponent's attack was close at hand, did he strike out with his palm. It was an ordinary palm strike, but everyone could feel the boundless power contained in the palm wind. In everyone's line of sight, they saw the Azure Cloud Sect's sect master's figure quickly fly away, and then fly out at an even faster speed. Bang! A shocking sound rang out. Only then did everyone realize that a mountain in the distance seemed to have been flattened by this palm. As for the Azure Cloud Sect's sect master, he was heavily injured and blood was spurting out. Seeing this, everyone was dumbfounded. Although the Azure Cloud Sect's sect master's strength was not the strongest, he was definitely not weak. The other party was able to beat him to such a state so easily. Recalling that when Jinghui was also heavily injured earlier, everyone understood where the problem was. With such strong strength, they were indeed not a match for him. How can this fellow be so strong? If we can't withstand a single move, wouldn't we be finished? Everyone looked at each other. At this level of strength, they also understood that if there was a great disparity in strength, then it was no longer something that could be dealt with by numbers. Today, the ancient profound sect's target was the Cloud Sword sect. But once the Cloud Sword sect was dealt with, it would be them later. If they could not deal with Shen Yaolong, then they would not be able to protect their own forces. Thinking of this, everyone could not help but panic. After Shen Yaolong noticed the change in everyone's expression, a trace of a smug smile appeared in his eyes. "Since everyone is so curious, then I'll let everyone have a good look at my strength." As soon as he finished speaking, an extremely tyrannical pressure, with Shen Yaolong as the center, erupted. This pressure carried a black luster as it swept across the mountains and plains. Everyone felt that the scene in front of them was like the end of the world. An indescribable despair spread in everyone's hearts. Crush. It was an absolute suppression. Even if everyone joined forces, they would be able to resist the pressure. It was as if of them, of them, of them, of them, of course of them, of course of course. This thought flashed through everyone's mind, but no one could think of an answer. After noticing this scene, Gu Yanran's face was filled with pride. Chapter 5608. Cloud Sword Sect. While the leaders of the other forces were on the verge of collapsing, Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest were extremely calm. "This can be confirmed. This guy is at the Starlight Realm." When Xiren spread out his hands and shrugged his shoulders, but there was a confident glow between his brows. As a dark attribute cultivator, it's already pretty good to be able to cultivate to such a level. I wonder how this guy came to the lower realm. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyebrows rose slightly. They had to figure this out. Other than that, nothing else was a problem. A Starlight Realm cultivator was nothing to them. Those guys outside must be in despair. Shengguan Yingying's expression was cold. They deserve it. Who asked them to have such an attitude? It's good to let them experience the feeling of despair. You're right. These guys should be taught a lesson. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. Although Sect Master Wen's reply was within her expectations, she couldn't help but feel dissatisfied. Let's just wait for a while before going out. We're not in a hurry anyway. Xiren smiled faintly. If the leaders of the other forces outside the Cloud Sword sect knew that the people of the Cloud Sword sect were gloating, who knew what they would think? Just when everyone was in despair and on the verge of collapsing, when Jinghui, Situ Yen, and the rest gradually appeared in front of everyone. It was only at this moment that Shen Yaolong retracted his pressure. Everyone looked at Shen Yaolong with lingering fear. His strength was too strong, and they couldn't deal with him at all. Shen Yaolong looked at Wen Jinghui, who was refreshed and didn't seem to be affected at all. A trace of dissatisfaction flashed through his eyes. Although he knew that Wen Jinghui's injuries had improved, the scene before him was still beyond his expectations. Sect Master Wen, I didn't expect your injuries to recover so well. Shen Yaolong mocked. Wen Jinghui said casually, it can only mean that you're not strong enough. Everyone gasped when they heard that. They felt that Wen Jinghui was crazy. This Shen Yaolong's strength was so strong that everyone wished they could stay as far away from this guy as possible. When Jinghui actually took the initiative to provoke him, wasn't this seeking his own death? As expected, Shen Yaolong's face instantly darkened, and his eyes were filled with threat. Wen Jinghui, you're really worried, aren't you? Have you forgotten the consequences of angering me? Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at Shen Yaolong's arrogant appearance, but they were not in a hurry to expose him. They just treated him like a clown. The consequences of angering you? Wen Jinghui chuckled. What consequences? Si Tuyen slowly said. Shen Yaolong, right? Although I don't know where you came from, I think you don't know much about the situation in the Shengxian continent. You think that your strength is not bad, but it is impossible to control everyone. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other. Why didn't they realize that their grandfather had such a hobby of teasing people before? Clearly, he was just toying with Shen Yaolong. Shen Yaolong was annoyed when he saw that Si Tuyen was lecturing him. You bastard, I think you're tired of living. Do you want me to send you to heaven? Chapter 5609. Everyone looked at Situ Yen and Wen Jinghui, who were echoing each other, and they were all dumbfounded. What was going on? Could it be that Situ Yen and Wen Jinghui didn't feel Shen Yaolong's terrifying strength? Logically speaking, shouldn't these two be more nervous than them now? Why were they still acting as if nothing had happened? Not only were the leaders of the surrounding forces confused, even Gu Yanran was at a loss at this moment. Why couldn't he understand the situation in front of him all of a sudden? Could it be that Situ Yen and Wen Jinghui were scared silly? Were they giving up on themselves? Shen Yaolong's heart was filled with anger. These two guys, who he thought could be killed with one slap, actually dared to be so arrogant in front of him. He came here today to make an example out of them and remind the leaders of the surrounding forces when he subdued the Cloud Sword sect. Therefore, Gu Yanran couldn't let Wen Jinghui and the others take the initiative. Therefore, he quickly tried to take back the initiative. Sect leader Wen, I've already explained our plan a few days ago. Have you thought it through now? Gu Yanran's gaze was calm and proud. He didn't want to see these guys jumping around anymore. If you still don't obediently hand over the position of sect leader, then we can only take action and make you, the so-called sect leader, disappear from this world. As Gu Yanran's voice fell, a trace of coldness appeared in Xiren's eyes. This hateful guy seriously injured my father back then, and now he's still talking nonsense in front of me. Sect leader Gu, I remember that when you came a few days ago, I've already answered you very clearly and knocked out 2 of your teeth for you as a gift. Have you forgotten so quickly? Wen Jinghui's face was filled with a faint smile, and his casual appearance seemed to be talking about the good weather today. He didn't feel threatened at all, but it was such a conversation that everyone present could feel the murderous intent contained in it. Although they hadn't made a move yet, this was already a round of confrontation. Gu Yanran's face suddenly darkened. His originally proud face looked as if he had eaten a fly at this moment, and it was extremely ugly. He wished he could completely cover up the embarrassing incident that day, But when Jinghui just had to bring it up in front of everyone today, wasn't this not giving him any face at all? When Jinghui, I think you're really refusing a toast only to drink a forfeit. Gu Yanran didn't want to say anything else. If he wanted to wash away the shame of that day, he could only wash it with blood. With that, Gu Yanran turned to look at Shen Yaolong. Master Shen, since when Jinghui is so unappreciative, I don't think we need to be polite. Shen Yaolong couldn't stand it any longer. Xiu, a purple realm cultivator from the lower realm, actually dared to be so arrogant in front of him. When Jinghui, I'll give you a chance to make a move. Let's have a match, so that people won't say that I'm bullying you. Shen Yaolong's gaze was filled with disdain that came from his bones. Shen Yaolong's gaze was calm, as if as long as he made a move, Wen Jinghui would not have any chance to resist. After seeing that things had developed to this point, everyone present broke out in a cold sweat for Wen Jinghui. It was fine to talk about it, but once it was done, it would be for real. Chapter 56:10. Since you want to fight so badly, and since my son has just returned, I'll let him fight with you today, and let you understand the power of the cultivators in the Shengxian continent. When Jinghui casually threw out these words, at the same time, when Xiren stepped forward and stopped in front of Shen Yaolong. I heard that, you're very arrogant. When Xiren raised his eyebrows slightly as his handsome face curled into a devilish smile. His gaze was clearly calm, but one could feel a bone-deep threat and pressure. Shen Yaolong looked at the unusually young Wen Xiren in front of him, and laughed in his heart. Old man, you couldn't have been beaten silly by me, right? Shen Yaolong sneered. Even you are no match for me. Wouldn't your son be smashed into meat paste under my palm? Then you can try. When Xiren narrowed his good-looking eyes as a sharp light flashed across them. Seeing this, the crowd looked at each other in dismay. They could not understand what Wen Jinghui was up to. What is Sect Master Wen trying to do? Although young Sect Master Wen has gone out for training this time, and his power is indeed outstanding among the younger generation, he is no match for such a powerful cultivator. For a moment, the crowd even thought that Wen Jinghui had gone mad. Even if Wen Xiren had improved greatly this time, it was still impossible for him to be compared to Shen Yaolong. You've got some guts. A cruel and bloodthirsty light flashed across Shen Yaolong's eyes. I will do as I said and smash you into meat paste. When that time comes, if you want to hate someone, hate your father. I will leave him with a scene that will leave a deep impression on him. When the icy voice fell into the ears of the crowd, they could only feel a chill run down their spines. However, when Xiren only chuckled, Master Shen's interests are truly unique. Since that's the case, I will send you to your death in a moment. There's no need to be polite. Hiss! The crowd sucked in a breath of cold air. They only felt that Wen Xiren was simply too courageous. You're courting death. Shen Yaolong's palm directly attacked Xiren. The tyrannical chi force caused the surrounding cultivators to retreat, fearing that they would be accidentally injured by the chi force. Xiren's figure flashed and dodged Shen Yaolong's attack. Seeing this, Shen Yaolong's pupil shrank slightly. He had clearly used his chi to lock down the entire space. With the strength of the cultivators in the lower realms, it was impossible for them to break free from such a shackle. How did this young boy do it? However, Xiren did not give Shen Yaolong any time to think. He spun around in midair and unleashed a powerful kick. Bang! Kacha! Everyone only saw a sweep, and then heard the sound of bones breaking, but they didn't know whose bones were broken. You really overestimate yourself, Gu Yanran sneered. He didn't need to look to know that Xiren's bones were broken. With this guy's strength, going against Master Shen was like hitting a rock with an egg. He was seeking his own death. You really overestimate yourself, Di Beichen said lightly. Gu Yanran heard this and looked at Di Beichen. He was a little suspicious. Wasn't Di Beichen a good brother of Xiren's? Why was he suddenly standing on the same side as him? Could it be that Di Beichen knew that they were no match for him in terms of strength, so he had changed his stance, and was now expressing goodwill towards him? Chapter 56:11. Ah! An ear-piercing scream rang out, shattering Gu Yanran's fantasy. That was because the voice was far too familiar to him. Wasn't that Shen Yalong's voice? He hurriedly took a closer look, only to discover that Shen Yalong's legs had been directly broken by Wen Xiren's horizontal sweep. At that moment, Shen Yalong was kneeling on the ground. His pants were dyed red with blood, and his face was flushed red from the pain. Impossible, this is impossible. Gu Yanran was dumbfounded. He rubbed his eyes, and simply could not believe that everything before his eyes was real. However, when he clearly saw that Shen Yalong had really been crippled and looked to be in pain, his face turned pale in an instant. He could not believe that all of this was real. Gu Yanran was not the only one who was dumbfounded. The leaders of the surrounding forces were also dumbfounded. That scene was simply too shocking. It was so shocking that they could not believe that all of this was real. Has young sect master Wen's strength become so terrifying? Shen Yalong's strength has surpassed the Purple Realm. Young sect master Wen has only gone out to train for a few years, and his strength has increased by such a terrifying amount. No wonder sect master Wen is so calm. It turns out that he's already prepared for this. At that moment, everyone understood. No wonder Si Tian and Wen Jinghui had been so calm before this. They had already had a card up their sleeves. The leaders of the forces who had been on good terms with Wen Jinghui were extremely regretful. With Wen Xiren's strength, his future achievements had already exceeded their expectations. If they had been willing to step forward at a time like this, they would have definitely received an incomparably precious friendship. Unfortunately, they were cowardly and had missed out on all of this. If they wanted to be on good terms with him now, it would be too difficult. However, there was no medicine for regret in this world. Even if they regretted it, it would be of no use. After Wen Xiren had crippled Shen Yalong's legs, he did not stop there. With another palm strike, Shen Yalong's hands were crippled as well. How dare you be so arrogant with such little strength, and try to control the entire Xingxian continent? What a fool's dream! Shen Yalong endured the intense pain, but the shock in his heart was more intense than the pain in his body. Nebula Realm. You are a Nebula Realm cultivator. Previously, Xiren had been concealing his aura, so he did not sense it. At this moment he finally understood. He actually saw a Nebula Realm cultivator in the lower realm. How was this possible? Nebula Realm. After Gu Yanran heard this sentence, his legs went soft. He also learned about the division of realms from Shen Yalong. In his eyes, Grandmaster Shen, who was terrifyingly powerful, was only at the Starlight Realm. However, Wen Xiren actually had the strength of a Nebula Realm. They had really kicked an iron plate this time. You actually cultivated to the Nebula Realm on Penglai Island? This is impossible. Countless thoughts flashed through Shen Yalong's mind, and then his eyes widened as he stared at Xiren. You've been to the upper realm. He knew all too well that on Penglai Island, he could only cultivate up to the astral boundary. However, if he wanted to cultivate online, he could only do so after awakening his innate talent. Therefore, cultivators above the astral boundary must have been to the upper realm. Xiren did not deny it. You don't need to know so much. You just need to know that you won't be able to see the sun tomorrow. Chapter 56:12. The huge palm carried with it a tyrannical pressure. From the moment it appeared, the entire world seemed to have been enveloped by this terrifying aura. Everyone felt that under this pressure, their breathing was suppressed, and they did not even dare to breathe loudly. Shen Yalong looked at the huge palm, and a thick sense of panic appeared in his eyes. No, I beg you, please let me go. He looked at Wen Xiren in horror and nervousness. I won't do it again, please let me live. At the same time, Gu Yanran and the group of disciples who came were also in a state of panic. They had come here today to show off their power, but who would have thought that they could lose their lives at any time? Go to hell and regret it. A bloodthirsty cold light flashed in Xiren's eyes. Since he dared to make a move on his father, he wanted him to die without a complete corpse. Boom! With a horrifying sound, Shen Yalong's figure was crushed into a pile of mud. Gulp! Everyone swallowed a mouthful of saliva. That bloody and cruel scene had greatly affected them. Everyone thought that the person who would end up like that would be Xiren. Such a reversal was truly shocking. Wen Jinghui's eyes were filled with pride and arrogance. This was his son. Haha, good son. When Ziren smiled faintly and walked to Wen Jinghui's side, he did not say anything else, but no one could ignore his existence. Sect Master Gu, it seems that your beautiful dream has been shattered. When Jinghui looked at Gu Yinran indifferently, the latter's face was pale, and he no longer had his previous arrogance and complacency. Gu Yinran could not help but take 2 steps back. His back was already soaked in cold sweat. The smell of blood in the air entered his nostrils, and the horrifying scene made his heart tremble. He regretted it. He really regretted it. He never thought that when Ziren's strength would actually be so strong, and when he thought back to everything he had said earlier, he really wished that he could give himself a tight slap. Turning his gaze, he could feel that the other leaders were also looking at him with cold gazes. It seemed that even if Wen Jinghui let him go today, the other legal representatives would not let him go. Sect Master Wen, I was wrong. I was under Shen Yaolong's control before. That's why I said those words. Please be magnanimous, and let me off this time. Gu Yinran knelt down. He really didn't want to die. Looking at the guy who was kowtowing and begging for mercy at his feet, Wen Jinghui did not have the slightest bit of sympathy in his eyes. Gu Yinran's decision was indeed influenced by Shen Yaolong, but from his previous performance, it could be seen that he was also looking forward to this plan. If it wasn't for the return of Ziren and the others this time, the current Cloud Sword sect would already have ceased to exist. Of course, he would not be merciful to such a person. Sect Leader Gu, you've been the sect leader for so many years. How can you still be so naive? A cold voice with a faint smile came out, but it made Gu Yinran lose all hope. The cultivators of the ancient profound sect were not stupid. Naturally, they knew that if they did not run, their little lives would be left here for good. In the next moment, everyone did not care so much and fled in different directions. Looking at the disciples of the ancient profound sect leaving, Wen Jinghui and the others did not make a move. After this matter was over, the ancient profound sect was destined to disappear from the Shengxian continent. This world was so cruel. If you don't succeed, you'll die trying. Chapter 56:13. When Jinghui didn't kill Gu Yinran right away, but brought him back to the Cloud's Word sect. In the matter this time, they still had some things to ask clearly, such as everything related to Shen Yaolong. If it wasn't for Shen Yaolong going too far earlier, Ziren didn't intend to kill him right away. But since Shen Yaolong had spoken such words, then for the dignity of the entire Cloud's Word sect, he would absolutely not be courteous. Now, they could only see if Gu Yinran knew all of this. If he didn't know, then forget it. Closing the door of the Cloud Word sect, he directly blocked all the leaders of the various powers that wanted to get closer to the Cloud Word sect. Everyone couldn't help but sigh when they saw this scene. Ziren had already returned for a few days, and this meant that the Cloud's Word sect was already not afraid of the Guxian sect. The reason this news was spread earlier was to give everyone a warning, and to give them an opportunity. If they contacted the Cloud's Word sect at that time, and expressed that they would stand on the same side, then they would be able to appear within the Cloud Word sect now, and not be blocked outside like now. But unfortunately, no one thought of this at that time, and they missed this best opportunity. With young Sect Master One, the future of the Cloud's Word sect is truly limitless. Who can compare to it? Alas, who asked us to not grasp the opportunity before? After this incident, I'm afraid Sect Master Wen won't pay attention to us in the future. Young Sect Master Wen went out to gain experience with young Sect Master D and the others this time. Does this mean that young Sect Master D and the others' strengths have also attained such a level? Everyone looked at each other, because D Baichen and Ziren had an extremely good relationship, so everyone often compared them together in the past. All along, D Baichen's performance was even more outstanding than Ziren's. Presently, Ziren already had such results, so it was impossible for D Baichen's strength to be weak. Along with this point being brought up, everyone looked at each other. If it was really like this, then these powers like the Tiangang sect would really be unshakable in the future. Do you think Sect Master 1 and Sect Master Situ will take advantage of this opportunity to unify the world? Originally, everyone was worried about the ancient profound sect's plan. But now, they couldn't help but worry about the Cloud Sword sect and the Tiangang sect. After all, these two sects were stronger than the ancient mysterious sect. If they had such thoughts, no one would be able to stop them. Everyone looked at each other in dismay. Their hearts, which had just calmed down, were now in their throats again. Bailey Hongzhuang and her team did not care about the thoughts of the people outside, even though they had already guessed that their performance today had caused a huge uproar. Master, those fellows outside must be regretting it to death. Xiao He had a complacent smile on her face. Perhaps they are now worried about whether we will continue with the ancient profound sect's plan. Let them worry about it. These fellows should feel the consequences of their actions in the first place. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were indifferent. They did not intend to do so, but letting these people be frightened for a while was also a punishment. Oh right, then those cultivators who escaped earlier were allowed to escape just like that? Xiaobai asked doubtfully. Those fellows were also extremely arrogant earlier. Letting them escape just like that was really not worth it. Chapter 56:14. The cultivators of the ancient profound sect, who came this time, are obviously their core disciples. Once they run away, who knows when they will cause trouble in the future? Those people naturally know about this situation, so they should have taken action long ago. Xiren explained. He was in an extremely good mood after solving this matter so quickly today. Assembly Hall. Gu Yanran was kneeling on the ground at this moment, looking at everyone with an embarrassed expression. He was extremely nervous. Speak, tell me everything about Shen Yaolong's appearance and everything else. When Jinghui looked at Gu Yanran coldly, his voice full of intimidation and threat. If you dare to lie, you will die miserably. Gu Yanran had long been frightened out of his wits. At this moment, how could he dare to lie? He immediately told everything in detail. After hearing all this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others also understood. It turned out that when Shen Yaolong saw other cultivators going to the lower realm, he took advantage of the fact that the guardian was absent-minded and secretly ran down. In that case, he happened to come to the lower realm by chance. Xiren raised his eyebrows. That's what he told me. Gu Yanran nodded. I promise that everything I said is the truth. There is absolutely no concealment. After knowing this result, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were no longer worried. This was just a coincidence, and it would only happen if one was lucky. Otherwise, they would be discovered if they were not careful. Although they could not prevent such things from happening, there was no need to worry too much with such a small probability. In addition, when Jinghui asked other questions, after understanding everything, everyone was completely relieved. Sect Master 1, I've said everything I can. Can you let me live? Gu Yanran looked at Wen Jinghui nervously. This time, I was confused. I beg you spare me. I promise, I will disappear in front of you in the future. I will never do such a thing again. Bang bang bang. Gu Yanran kept kowtowing and weeping bitterly. Where was his usual demeanor and majesty? As the sect master of the ancient profound sect, he had always been very proud of his life. He really did not want to die. Once he died, there would be nothing left. However, when Jinghui showed no mercy. I've said all that needs to be said. You no longer have any value. Men, take him away and deal with him. With a wave of his hand, Gu Yanran was pulled down. No matter how Gu Yanran pleaded, it was of no use. Everyone just watched this scene indifferently. Fortunately, this scene today was stopped by them. Otherwise, the entire Cloudsword sect would surely flow with blood like a river. To be merciful to the enemy was to be cruel to oneself. They had been in the Jianghu for a long time, and would never make such a mistake again. This Gu Yanran really deserves it. Mu Lingbing shook her head and sighed. If it weren't for his wild ambition, he wouldn't have ended up like this. Even if we let him live today, there's no way he won't hold any grudges against us. But once he leaves, the other factions won't let him go. Lan Yunxiao slowly said. With Gu Yanran's contemptuous attitude towards everyone today, It was impossible for everyone to let him go. Chapter 56:15. As everything was resolved, everyone's mood became brighter. Jinghui, since the matters here have been resolved, then we'll go back first. Situ Yin revealed a smile. Hong Zhuang and the others had just returned, and they didn't even have the time to return to Tiangang sect. No matter what, they had to go back and take a look. When Jinghui naturally understood all of this, and immediately nodded. I've really troubled you this time. Hong Zhuang and Di Beichen just returned, and they didn't have the time to have a proper gathering with you all before coming to Cloud Sword sect. As he spoke, when Jinghui turned to look at Di Beichen and Mu Lingbing. As an uncle, I'm really sorry. Uncle, you're too polite. We're all on the same side, Di Beichen said with a smile. He had often come to Cloud Sword sect since he was young, and when Jinghui was also in existence like family to him. Haha, I won't be polite either. When I go to the upper realm, I'll have to rely on you juniors. When Jinghui was extremely carefree, after experiencing this incident, he had already seen through many things. Now his strength couldn't compare to these juniors. When he went to the upper realm, he still had to rely on the help of the juniors. However, as a senior, he must work hard to catch up to everyone's cultivation. Hearing when Jinghui say that he was going to the upper realm again, Mu Lingbing and the others secretly sighed in their hearts. This point made them very conflicted. Everyone didn't stay any longer, and returned to Tiangang sect together. Returning to this familiar place again, Bailey Hongzhuang's lips bloomed into a bright and sunny smile. Back then, it was here that she and Di Beichen's relationship had undergone a baptism. Back then her status was low. Until now, she still remembered the sensation when Di Beichen announced her identity to the world. Even though so long had passed, the memory had always been in her heart. Young sect master. Eldest young miss. Joyful voices came from the mouths of the Tiangang sect disciples. Everyone's faces were filled with joy and excitement. Young sect master and eldest young miss are finally back. We heard the news of the Cloud Sword sect long ago, and we're waiting for your return. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen smiled and responded to the crowd. Among the lively faces, there were familiar faces and unfamiliar faces, but the atmosphere made them feel at home. Mu Lingbing and the others couldn't help but sigh at the lively scene. Beichen and Hongzhuang's reputation in Tiangang sect is extraordinary. When have we ever seen these cultivators so excited? Even if Situ Yin had appeared, he would not have been able to cause such a commotion. Beichen and Hongzhuang were well-known figures among the younger generation. Many young people idolized them. Now that they've returned, this kind of situation is normal. Lan Yinxiao faintly smiled. Young people, of course, were targeted at young people. Hongzhuang Beichen. A familiar voice rang out from the crowd. No matter how noisy the surroundings were, Bailey Hongzhuang could still determine the owner of the voice in the first second. Turning her gaze slightly, Bailey Hongzhuang noticed Xia Jiqing in the crowd at a glance. Jiqing? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled, her eyes filled with joy. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang had noticed her, Xia Jiqing's face also filled with joy. Chapter 56:16. The surrounding disciples looked at the cordial appearance of Bailey Hongzhuang and Xia Jiqing, and their eyes were filled with envy. I heard before that the relationship between the eldest miss and senior sister Xia is very good. Now it seems that it is true. That's naturally true. You joined the sect late, so you don't know that senior sister Xia came to Tiangang sect with the eldest Mississippi. Although they are not biological sisters, they are closer than biological sisters. So senior brother Bai, senior sister Lu, senior brother Dongfang and senior brother Gong all know the eldest miss. Isn't that so? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and took Xia Jiqing's hand. Long time no see, Jiqing. You were away for so long, you worried us to death. Fortunately you came back safely, Xia Jiqing said with emotion. Has everything been resolved? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly and said, Don't worry, everything has been resolved. That's good. Just as the two were talking, Bai Junyu, Dongfang Yu, Gong Shaoqing and Lu Qinhua also arrived. At this moment, They were looking at Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen with smiles on their faces. Everyone is here. Di Beichen smiled warmly. Although he didn't know how everyone was doing, he could guess that everyone was doing well just by looking at their spiritual appearance. Bai Junyu nodded. When I heard the news of your return, Jiqing was looking forward to seeing you as soon as possible. In the past few days, the news of Cloud Sword sect had spread like wildfire. Everyone had been worried until they heard the good news, and were relieved. Early this morning, Jiqing has been waiting for your news. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Xia Jiqing in front of her, and felt a little touched. It's good that you're back. Xia Jiqing's eyes were slightly red. I've been waiting for you for so long, you're finally back. When she was in the academy, she had always been with Hongzhuang. Later on, when Hongzhuang came to Tiangang sect, she followed her to Tiangang sect. In her life, Hongzhuang was her most important sister. This time, I really don't have enough confidence, so I acted alone. In the future, I will do my best to act together with you. How about that? Her dark phoenix eyes flashed with a firm light. Even if they hadn't seen each other for a long time, as long as he looked at Xia Jiqing's eyes, he knew that the friendship between them had never changed. Jiqing had always supported her so firmly, and she cherished this friendship. That's great. Xia Jiqing was happy for a while. She always remembered the time when she was adventuring with Hongzhuang. Although it was full of danger, that kind of life made her feel at ease. Her life in Tiangang sect was very stable. With the resources of the sect, her cultivation did not fall behind. However, since Hongzhuang left, she had always felt that something was missing. Mu Lingbing looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and Xia Jiqing chatting happily. She couldn't help but smile and say, Hongzhuang, go back to the house first. You have plenty of time to talk. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded and smiled. Yes, let's go back and have a good chat. Inside the house, Bailey Hongzhuang and a group of young people gathered together. Hongzhuang, you've been away for a long time this time. Dongfang Yu laughed aloud. We've been waiting for you every day. Our necks have grown long. I see that your neck is still the same as before. There hasn't been any change. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. Chapter 56-17. Beichen, has the problem with your physique been completely solved? There won't be any danger in the future, right? Gong Xiaoqing looked at Di Beichen with concern. When Di Beichen fell into a coma, everyone was extremely worried. Who would have thought that there would be such a big risk with his physique? Now that it's completely solved, there won't be any more problems. Di Beichen said. Then we can be at ease. Gong Xiaoqing nodded. They were very clear about the relationship between Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen. If anything happened to Di Beichen, Hongzhuang wouldn't live alone. Lu Qinhua quietly glanced at Gong Xiaoqing and asked, You guys won't leave again this time, right? That's not it. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. This time, the matter of Cloud Sword sect has spread like wildfire. I won't hide it from you guys. On the other side of Shengxian continent, there is an island called Penglai. The cultivators there are stronger than here. The reason why ancient profound sect is so arrogant this time is because an extremely strong cultivator has appeared in their sect. That cultivator came from Penglai Island? Dongfang Yu asked in surprise. No. Since he didn't come from Penglai Island, what's the relationship between the two? He came from a place stronger than Penglai Island, the upper realm. When these words came out, Dongfang Yu and the others were stunned. When they heard about Penglai Island, they were already shocked. Now, there was another place that was even stronger than Penglai Island. This was too unbelievable. There are actually so many powerful places in Shengxian continent. Bai Junyu's eyes widened. I suddenly feel that I don't know anything about the upper realm. These words were undoubtedly full of shock to Gong Xiaoqing and the others. Everyone fell into silence for a moment. All along, they felt that the world they lived in was incomparably familiar. Only now did they understand that everything was not like that. Bailey Hongzhuang paid attention to everyone's expressions. In fact, the existence of the upper realm itself was not a big secret. It was just that they were worried that such news would cause some panic, so they had never mentioned it. The reason why she told Xia Jiqing and the others, was that she felt that everyone might reach this level in the future. The earlier he knew, the more motivation he would have. After a brief surprise, Xia Jiqing quickly recovered. These things were not important to her. What she cared about was whether she could continue to travel with Hong Zhuang. She missed those days very much. If she could continue to live that kind of life, it would be the happiest thing in her life. In that case, you and Beichen went to Penglai Island and the upper realm previously? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. That's right. We're only here temporarily. We'll be leaving in a few days. I understand. Xia Jiqing understood and couldn't help but sigh. In the beginning, she and Hong Zhuang had always been on the same side. Although Hong Zhuang's strength had always been stronger than hers, she had always been working hard to catch up with Hong Zhuang's footsteps. Now the gap between them seemed to be even bigger, so big that it was difficult to catch up. If you want to go there, I can take you with me. However, you have to think about it. The cultivators there are extremely strong, far stronger than the cultivators in Shengxian continent. Chapter 56:18. After everyone left, Bailey Hongzhuang said to Di Beichen, Beichen, isn't this news too hard for everyone to accept? To her, these pieces of news were not inconceivable at all. Even before she knew about Penglai Island, she doubted whether there would be such a strong existence in the Shengxian continent. After knowing all this, she accepted it very calmly. However, she neglected the fact that not everyone could calmly accept all of this. That's not it. Di Beichen's voice was as warm as the ocean. Dongfang and the others' cultivation talent is very good, and they are likely to come in contact with this side in the future. Letting them know earlier may not be a bad thing, and you also gave them a chance to choose. No matter what choice they make, we will support them. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded lightly, thinking back to the time when everyone was in the same team and worked hard to join the sect. Now there was a new road in front of them, but not everyone's thoughts were the same as before. As far as I know, Dongfang and the others are now outstanding disciples in the sect, and their daily lives are quite comfortable. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichen. Although she only said half of the words, she already understood. Not everyone liked to pursue higher strength, and there were more people who worked hard to improve their cultivation in order to live a comfortable life. Perhaps everyone was very satisfied with their current life, so they were not willing to make any changes. You are right, everyone has their own aspirations, and my thoughts may be different from theirs now. In the past 2 years, we have been immersed in the rhythm of our original lives, but they are completely different. Although the disciples of the sect often compete with each other, with their current cultivation, it is not difficult for them to deal with it, but to go to the upper realm with us, it is indeed difficult. Bailey Hongzhuang sighed. She thought that she was too naive. I understand that you are doing this because of our friendship, but I think that even if they choose to go, it is best to experience Penglai Island first. It is not too late to go to the upper realm, after they have adapted to life on Penglai Island, and their strength has improved to a certain extent. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the serious and handsome face and smiled. I understand your concerns. In fact, I also think that there is a Penglai Island between the upper realm and the lower realm, because this is a place for everyone to adapt to. If Dongfang and the others are really willing to go, we can entrust them to Penglai Palace. As disciples of Penglai Palace, they will have less trouble like us, and if they can't adapt, they can come back on their own. Di Beichen's deep eyes revealed his thoughts and consideration. He was not worried about sect master or the others, because his master and the others have always been aware of the existence of a higher realm, and they had never relaxed. And they were more mature, so it was not a problem to deal with these things. Dongfang Yu and the others were still very young. Perhaps their thoughts would change in the future. But no matter from which point of view, staying on Penglai Island for a while was excellent. Only after getting used to high-intensity battles would they be able to catch up to the upper realm as quickly as possible. Chapter 56:19. After returning to Tiangang sect, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen traveled together and visited all the places they were familiar with. When they arrived at the pill refinement hall, Bailey Hongzhuang did not leave immediately. Instead, she walked in to check on the situation of the pill refinement masters. The pill refiners of Tiangang sect were naturally aware of the eldest young lady's deep attainments in the art of pill refinement. Immediately, some of them plucked up the courage to ask for guidance. Bailey Hongzhuang did not refuse them and answered them one by one. Pills have always been very important to cultivators, and to a sect, the pill refinement hall was also extremely crucial. When the crowd saw that Bailey Hongzhuang was so amiable and approachable, their hearts were filled with joy. One by one, they began to ask the questions in their hearts. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's answers, they realized that the questions that had been troubling them for a long time had been solved so easily. In the end, Bailey Hongzhuang simply opened a lecture hall and began to introduce some of the questions that they needed to pay attention to when refining pills. Her pill refinement skills have improved since she had ascended to the upper realm. Now it was very easy for her to answer all of these questions. I've long heard that the eldest young lady's pill refinement skills are extremely outstanding. Now, it seems that the rumors are well deserved. Isn't that so? Usually, it's very difficult to find definite answers to these questions. I never thought that the eldest young lady would be able to answer them without any hesitation and without any mistakes. I really hope that the eldest young lady can stay here forever. Then, our pill refinement skills will definitely surpass the medicine sects. Di Beichen's eyes rippled with a doting smile when he saw this. Aside from being an outstanding pill refiner, his wife was also a good teacher. Once they returned, Mu Lingbing's voice rang out before Bailey Hongzhuang could say anything. I heard that you went to the pill refinement hall today, and even opened a lecture hall? Bailey Hongzhuang was shocked. Mother, how did you know? This news has already spread throughout the entire Tiangang sect. Mu Jinsei chuckled. Along the way, I've heard disciples talking about it. Eldest young miss, you're very popular. Hongzhuang and Beichen have always been very popular here. I see that almost all the topics recently revolve around them. Mu Lingbing's face was full of pride. She was very satisfied to see her daughter grow up to be so outstanding. That's true, Mu Jinsei nodded. When the old man and I were here, we had never seen such a lively situation. In my opinion, even the cultivators who originally wanted to go into seclusion had to give up their plans. Listening to their conversation, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other and smiled. While the entire Tiangang sect was in joy, the masters of the various forces were in fear. No one knew what the Tiangang sect and the Consort sect were planning. During this process of waiting, they felt that every minute and every second was extremely unbearable. Most importantly, no news at a time like this meant that there was good news. Hence, the various large forces could only continuously ask around for information. On one hand, they were rejoicing that no news had been released. On the other hand, they were worried that the next news would be something they could not accept. Mother, have you discussed the matter of going to the upper realm with father? Bailey Hongzhuang asked curiously. Chapter 56:20. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes dimmed. She thought that with her mother's help, it wouldn't be difficult to solve this problem. She didn't expect that they would still fail in the end. Mother, did father say why? Mu Lingbing noticed the sadness on Bailey Hongzhuang's face and couldn't help but feel heartache. She hurriedly said, Hongzhuang, don't be sad. Your father said that he will go to the upper realm to find you after he becomes stronger. Although he can't immediately go with you this time, he just needs to spend some time. He will go sooner or later. Be well in the upper realm and wait for us to come find you. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. No matter what you choose, I will support you. Seeing this, Mu Lingbing and Mu Jinsei looked at each other helplessly. Both father and daughter were doing this for each other. Although this result made them feel very helpless, they felt very warm in their hearts when they thought of their concern for each other. Di Beichen silently watched this scene from the side. He already had some thoughts in his heart, and after hearing his mother-in-law's words, He was even more certain that his judgment was correct. At night, the bright moon hung high in the sky, and the night was as cold as water. Di Baichen went directly to Lan Yunxiao's residence with a jug of good wine in hand. When Lan Yunxiao saw Di Baichen suddenly appear, he was somewhat surprised. Without waiting for him to ask, Lan Yunxiao entered. Di Baichen raised the jug of wine in his hand and smiled. "Father-in-law, do you have time to drink with me?" "Yunxiao, the two of you should have a good drink." Mu Lingbing smiled. Lan Yunxiao immediately nodded. Of course. He was very satisfied with this son-in-law of his. If not for this, he wouldn't have married Hong Zhuang so soon after he recognized her. Fortunately, Di Baichen didn't disappoint him. Even when he went to the upper realm, he didn't let Hong Zhuang suffer in the large Di family. The two of them sat on the ground in the back mountain. The bright moonlight shone on them, elongating their shadows and making them seem as close as brothers. "Father-in-law, I toast you. Thank you for letting Hong Zhuang marry me." Di Baichen raised the jug of wine. At this time, the two of them were too lazy to hold wine cups, so they directly drank from the jug of wine. Haha, good. The two of them drank in large mouthfuls. The moonlight illuminated their handsome faces, hazy and beautiful. "Baichen, when we return to the upper realm, you must take good care of Hong Zhuang." Lan Yunxiao patted Di's back. "I already heard from your mother-in-law. This time, your family prepared many gifts, and I know that they treat Hong Zhuang's treatment. However, Hong Zhuang has no one to rely on in the upper realm after all. She still needs you to take good care of her. I'm entrusting Hong Zhuang to you. You can't let me down." Di Baichen nodded seriously. "Father, don't worry. As long as I'm here, I won't let anyone bully Hong Zhuang. I swear on my life on this." Lan Yunxiao also looked at Di Baichen seriously and solemnly. When he saw the clear light in the other party's eyes, he revealed a satisfied expression. "That's good. I'm relieved. Father, since you're so worried about Hong Zhuang, why don't you take advantage of this opportunity to go to the upper realm? I know that you all want to see Hong Zhuang often. Although there are many family matters, as long as you handle them well, it's not difficult to put them aside for the time being." Chapter 56:21. Lan Yunxiao didn't say anything, and only took another sip of wine. "Actually, I understand your concerns," Di Baichen slowly said. "If I'm not wrong, the reason why you didn't take advantage of this opportunity to head to the upper realm is because you're worried that you'll implicate Hong Zhuang." Lan Yunxiao's expression froze. Then he looked up at the bright moon with a complicated expression. Di Baichen continued. "Father-in-law, you might not be too clear about Hong Zhuang's current status in the upper realm. She's not isolated and helpless in the Di family. On the contrary, the Di family still has to rely on her identity as the Holy Maiden of Light. The Radiant Sacred Assembly is a prominent existence in the upper realm, and the Holy Maiden of Light only appears once every several hundred years. Just based on this identity, no one dares to bully her." Lan Yunxiao's expression changed. He really didn't know much about this. Although Di Baichen and Hong Zhuang had mentioned this before, he didn't think that the Holy Maiden of Light's status could be compared to the status of an aristocratic family. But now, it seemed that he had underestimated the Holy Maiden of Light's status. Not only that, Hong Zhuang is also a manager of the Alchemist Guild. She previously obtained first place in the Alchemist Assembly, and is hailed as the existence most likely to become a 10th grade alchemist. I'm not exaggerating in the slightest. Father-in-law, I believe that you understand Hong Zhuang's personality very well. She definitely won't do anything she isn't confident in. You have a very important position in her heart. So before she came back, she already thought of a comprehensive plan, so that you can head to the upper realm with peace of mind. Right. There's one more thing that I believe Hong Zhuang should have mentioned. Di Baichen raised his brows. Hong Zhuang is now the head of the Bailey family. Lan Yunxiao nodded. Hong Zhuang did mention this, but I don't understand. How did Hong Zhuang suddenly become the head of the Bailey family? When Hong Zhuang mentioned this, they all felt it was very strange. But they had been rather busy recently, and had already made up their minds, so they didn't ask in detail. Actually, when Hong Zhuang was in Fengbo, she recognized a master. This master was from the Upper Realms Bailey family. He passed the inheritance of the Bailey family to Hong Zhuang. And Hong Zhuang discovered all this after she went to the Upper Realm. After that, Hong Zhuang returned the inheritance of the Bailey family to them. In addition, the Bailey family had a prophecy that a Miss Hong Zhuang would lead them to become stronger. She was that person, and by chance she became the head of the Bailey family. Di Beichen's expression was calm as he narrated all the ins and outs of the story in an orderly manner. He had already discussed this with Hong Zhuang before they came back. It was clearly inappropriate to directly tell Lan Yunxiao and Lan Yunxiao that she wasn't the real Lan Yixuan. It would truly hurt their hearts too much. After thinking about it, this was the most suitable and acceptable way to put it. As expected, although Lan Yunxiao was shocked after hearing this, he didn't suspect anything. No wonder Hong Zhuang was able to perform so well in Fengbo. It turns out that she has an outstanding master behind her. Lan Yunxiao immediately understood. He had been very shocked at this point. He didn't expect his daughter to grow up so well in a small dynasty. Chapter 56-22. Previously, Hong Zhuang was worried that you would feel uneasy in the Di family after going to the Upper Realm. After she became the head of the Bailey family, she made up her mind to bring you to the Upper Realm. Because it's her family, you don't need to feel uneasy. Di Beichen explained everything that Bailey Hong Zhuang had been worried about. His deep voice was filled with sincerity. She really has prepared everything she could think of. After hearing all of this, Lan Yunxiao's face revealed a trace of shock. Although Hong Zhuang had mentioned this before, it hadn't shocked him as much as this. Only now did he understand that his daughter had made so many preparations to make them feel at ease. When I first met Hong Zhuang, General Bailey's family didn't treat her well, but she was very strong. The humiliation she endured was unbearable for many men. When she found out that she wasn't her biological daughter, and that you didn't abandon her on purpose, I clearly saw her joy. In the past few years, her goal was to save you. I saw everything she did with my own eyes, and understood her feelings for you. During these days in the Upper Realm, Hong Zhuang lived very well. Even though she was only there for a short period of time, she already had an unshakable position in the Upper Realm. But even so, she has always been worried about you. She was worried that you would encounter unknown dangers in the lower realm. But she also hoped that you could stay in the Upper Realm, because it's more suitable for cultivators to develop. Father-in-law, I believe that you also love Hong Zhuang. If you chose to refuse because you were worried about her situation, I think it's better to make her happy. What do you think? Di Beichen looked at the shocked Lan Yunxiao. This was the first time he had said so much, because he couldn't bear to see Hong Zhuang sad. Hong Zhuang had always been very strong, as if nothing could break her. But there was still a weak spot in her heart. Lan Yunxiao's heart trembled, and his eyes reddened. In fact, he had always known that Hong Zhuang's life had not been easy all these years. Even though Hong Zhuang had downplayed everything, they could more or less guess. However, it wasn't until Di Beichen explained everything that he realized that they were still too naive. He was still so young, but he was already mature enough to think of everything for them. After a while, Lan Yunxiao nodded. Beichen, you're right. Nothing is more important than Hong Zhuang's happiness. When Di Beichen heard this, his face showed a happy smile. Father, so do you agree? Agreed. Lan Yunxiao nodded solemnly and raised the wine pot. Come, cheers. After drinking a large mouthful of wine, Lan Yunxiao said, I didn't consider this matter from Hong Zhuang's perspective. Fortunately, you reminded me. Otherwise, Hong Zhuang would be very disappointed when she leaves. He had already caused his daughter to lose so many years of happiness. How could he continue? Father-in-law, Hong Zhuang also understands your painstaking efforts. Di Beichen smiled faintly. But if she knows that you're willing to go together, she'll be very happy. Haha. Actually, your mother-in-law also wants to go to the Upper Realm to accompany Hong Zhuang. This is great. I don't have to be nagged by her anymore. Lan Yunxiao laughed heartily. Clearly, he was very happy after resolving one of his worries. Come drink. Chapter 56:23. The next day, the weather was clear, and the sun was shining brightly. Bailey Hongzhuang saw Mu Lingbing appear in front of her door with a smile on her face early in the morning. She was a little surprised. "Mother, did something good happen? Why are you so happy this early in the morning?" "Hongzhuang, let me tell you some good news." Mu Lingbing held Bailey Hongzhuang's hand, unable to conceal her joy. "Your father has agreed to go to the upper realm." As soon as the words came out, Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly surprised. Suspicion flashed in her eyes, followed by a fiery joy. "Really? Father really agreed?" Mu Lingbing nodded. "Of course. Why would I lie to you about something like this? Father's attitude has always been firm. Why did he suddenly change his mind?" Bailey Hongzhuang's beautiful black eyes were filled with doubt. She was very puzzled. She had tried to persuade him many times before, but to no avail. She had already accepted this result, but her father had suddenly changed his mind. Something must have happened that she didn't know about. Otherwise, it was impossible for him to change his mind. Mu Lingbing smiled and pointed at Di Beichen, who was standing behind Bailey Hongzhuang. "You'll have to ask Beichen about this. Last night, Beichen went to find your father for a chat, and the two of them drank until the middle of the night before returning. This morning, your father told me that he changed his mind." Although she didn't know what Di Beichen had said to Lan Yunxiao, she was certain that this change had something to do with Beichen. Bailey Hongzhuang turned to look at Di Beichen. Her beautiful face was filled with joy and gratitude. "You really did it." Beichen had said that he would handle this matter, but because her father's attitude was too firm, she hadn't taken it to heart. She hadn't expected that Beichen would really be able to persuade her father. This was too shocking. Di Beichen nodded with a smile. "I'll naturally do what I promised you. You're amazing." Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but give Di Beichen a big hug. Her pretty face was filled with joy. Ever since she'd returned to the lower realm, she'd hoped to persuade her father, and Beichen had accomplished what she'd thought was impossible. She was truly overjoyed. Feeling this warm hug, Di Beichen smiled slightly. After seeing such a happy Hongzhuang, everything was worth it. He believed that his father-in-law would think so too. Mu Lingbing looked at the loving Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen, and her eyes flashed with love and affection. "You two have a good chat. I'll go back first." Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang let go of Di Beichen, a little embarrassed. Mu Lingbing had already turned to leave. Just as she was about to let go, Di Beichen hugged her tightly and carried her directly into the house. "Beichen," Bailey Hongzhuang was surprised. "Wife, I helped you fulfill such a big wish. You can't just thank me with words." "You have to take action." Di Beichen smiled evilly. "It's morning now. I don't mind." After Xia Jiqing learned that there was a higher existence in this world, her heart was extremely shocked, but she did not hesitate at all. Since Hongzhuang had gone to the upper realm, of course, she would go with her. Chapter 56:24. "Jiqing, you should be planning to go to the upper realm, right?" Bai Junyu noticed Xia Jiqing's expression and had already guessed her thoughts. He and Jiqing had been together for a few years, and he knew Jiqing's temperament very well. Xia Jiqing nodded. "Although I haven't been there, just listening to Hongzhuang, I know that it's very good. If we go there, our strength can be improved." Saying this, Xia Jiqing seemed to think of something. She turned to look at Bai Junyu and said, "Junyu, do you want to go?" Looking at Xia Jiqing's worried look, Bai Junyu chuckled. "I thought you forgot about me after Hongzhuang came back." "I didn't." Xia Jiqing smiled. Bai Junyu was good to her, and she had always kept it in her heart. Even if they had been together for so long, Bai Junyu still took care of her as always, which made her very touched. "Seeing that you still have a little conscience, I will go with you." Bai Junyu smiled dotingly. "What you said is true." Xia Jiqing jumped up in surprise. As far as she was concerned, this matter did not need to be considered at all. The only thing she was worried about was that Bai Junyu was not willing. If Junyu did not go, then she did not know whether to go or not. Now that Junyu had agreed, she had no more worries. Do you think I don't know you? Bai Junyu looked helpless. Hong Zhuang is so important in your heart. When Hong Zhuang was not here, you always talked about it. Now that Hong Zhuang is back and gives you such a choice, it would be strange if you don't agree. Junyu, you really know me too well. Xia Jiqing's face was full of joy. In fact, the reason why I can be where I am now is because of Hong Zhuang. If it weren't for Hong Zhuang encouraging me and helping me, I wouldn't have been able to join the sect. You also heard what Hong Zhuang said. There are so many strong people in this world. Are we satisfied with the status quo and give up everything? Bai Junyu nodded slightly. You're right. It's not necessarily a bad thing to venture into the upper realm. It had only been a few years since Hong Zhuang and Beichen had left, but their strength had increased so much. Right now they were still very young. If they took advantage of this time to go out and make a name for themselves, they would be able to achieve even greater achievements. Jiqing, actually, with our current cultivation, Hong Zhuang is already taking care of us by being willing to take us there. So we must work hard. Bai Junyu's expression was serious. Although Hong Zhuang did not mention this point, he understood in his heart. If they needed help, it would undoubtedly be much easier to find one from the upper realm. However, Hong Zhuang had proposed to bring them along. This was because she wanted to guide them, because of their previous friendship. If he didn't seize such a good opportunity, he would be letting Hong Zhuang down. Listening to Bai Junyu's words, Xia Jiqing also understood. I understand. Hong Zhuang has always been very sincere to us. What she was most grateful for was that Hong Zhuang's status was no longer on the same level as hers. However, Hong Zhuang had never cared about this, and had always treated her sincerely. Since it has been decided, should we tell Hong Zhuang first? Xia Jiqing raised her lips and smiled. This time, I'm afraid they won't stay for long. The earlier we tell her, the earlier we can prepare. Chapter 56-25. Just as Bai Junyu and Xia Jiqing were heading to Bailey Hongzhuang's residence, they unexpectedly met Dongfang Yu on the way. The three of them looked at each other and smiled. It seems that you have also thought about it. Dongfang Yu took the lead and said. Xia Jiqing nodded slightly. Yes, we have decided to go to the upper realm. What about you? My thoughts are the same as yours. Dongfang Yu chuckled. We are still so young. How can everything stop here? Since there is a more powerful place, no matter what, we have to go and see it. Even if we can't adapt, we can still come back. Looking at Dongfang Yu's casual appearance, Xia Jiqing and Bai Junyu also sighed. Dongfang Yu had always been the most free and easy person. Many problems that seemed incomparably tangled to others were not problems at all for him. But they had to admit that such a free and easy attitude was really admirable. By the way, did you not call Xiaoqing when you came? Bai Junyu was a little puzzled. Usually, Dongfang Yu would call Gong Xiaoqing. The two of them had always had a good relationship since they were at the academy. However, the situation had changed slightly after Gong Xiaoqing and Lu Qinhua got together. I have already asked Xiaoqing, but this time, his plan is different from ours. Dongfang Yu shrugged, his face full of emotion. Hearing this, Bai Junyu and Xia Jiqing were slightly surprised. They did not expect Gong Xiaoqing to refuse. Did Xiaoqing say why? One had to know that Gong Xiaoqing was the most hardworking among them. It was reasonable to say that he would not refuse such an opportunity. Qinhua feels that life here is very good, and does not want to go out again. Dongfang Yu pursed his lips, his eyebrows showing a trace of sadness. He and Gong Xiaoqing were good brothers for many years. Over the years, the two of them had been working together, and could be said to be inseparable. They did not expect that the two of them would have different choices now. Although there was still a chance to come back, they knew in their hearts that once they left this time, they did not know when they would meet again in the future. Xia Jiqing suddenly understood. Qinhua's temperament is very gentle. A life of fighting and killing is not suitable for her. On the contrary, it is very suitable here. When they were at the academy, Qinyue's characteristics had already been exposed. She preferred a more stable life, and did not want too many twists and turns in her life. The future of this trip to the upper realm was uncertain, and they might encounter danger at any time. It was normal for them to be unwilling to go. Since this is their choice, we can only give them our blessings. Bai Junyu spread out his hands. It's a pity that the number of people in our team will be reduced. That's right. Bai Junyu sighed. It was so lively when we were together. When Bailey Hongzhuang learned that Xia Jiqing and the other two had chosen to go together, her face also showed a happy smile. It's great that you're willing to come with us. It's a pity that Xiaoqing and Qingyue chose to stay here. Actually, it's good that they're staying here. They're all outstanding disciples in the sect. Now that the three of you have left, it'll have a certain impact. If the two of them stay here, they can at least lead a group of disciples. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. She was very open-minded about this. Qinyue's temperament was not suitable to go outside. Chapter 56-26. Bailey Hongzhuang immediately said this decision. In addition to you, the sect and the Lan family will choose some excellent cultivators to go with you. Penglai Island is actually a very good place to gain experience, and there is a magic refining tower there. If there is a chance, you can try to get the inheritance. After you adapt to the situation on Penglai Island, we will take you to the upper realm. She had made up her mind to let her family and sect gradually become stronger. Letting some cultivators improve in batches, and then slowly transition was undoubtedly the best. After hearing this news, Dongfang Yu and the others were a little surprised, but they also understood Hong Zhuang's painstaking arrangement. No problem. I understand that the gap between the upper realm and the lower realm is too big. It is good for us to adapt to Penglai Island first. Dongfang Yu blinked his charming peach blossom eyes, looking relaxed and calm. In fact, he had been worried about this problem before. Although he didn't know how strong Hong Zhuang was now, just by feeling her aura, he knew that it was definitely not an ordinary gap. If the strength of everyone in the upper realm was so amazing, they wouldn't know what to do after going there. Basically, in addition to silently cultivating, they didn't even have the courage to go out. If they accidentally offended someone, they wouldn't even have the ability to fight back. Although the cultivators on Penglai Island were very strong, at least the gap could be seen, and there was a goal to pursue. We are very familiar with the Penglai Palace on Penglai Island. We were disciples of the Penglai Palace before. You can directly join the Penglai Palace. With the help of the Palace Master and Master Long, there should be no problem with your cultivation. Di Baichen said. Hearing this, the three nodded slightly. Since Baichen said so, they knew that the relationship with the Penglai Palace must be very familiar. If not, Hong Zhuang and Baichen wouldn't be at ease to let everyone stay there. You arranged it, we are relieved. Bai Junyu smiled. I didn't expect you to help us plan it all. Bailey Hongzhuang took Xia Jiqing's hand. Jiqing, in fact, I wanted to go with you, but the difference in the upper realm is really big. If you stay in the house all day to cultivate, it will undoubtedly be very boring. On the Penglai Island, there are more suitable places for you to cultivate. As a cultivator, it was obviously not appropriate to cultivate in seclusion without experience. However, the dangers of the upper realm were not suitable for them, and the world in the Chaos Ring was now more dangerous as their strength increased. It was no longer suitable for Xia Jiqing and the others. Xia Jiqing's face was filled with a warm and kind smile. Hong Zhuang, I know that you have always cared about me. This is the best way so far. Don't worry. We will definitely cultivate properly on Penglai Island. It is impossible for us to surpass you. However, we will definitely catch up to you as soon as possible and head to the upper realm. Bailey Hongzhuang was completely relieved when she saw Xia Jiqing like this. I believe that with your talent, You will soon reach the standard to go to the upper realm. Maybe you will have a fortuitous encounter on Punglai Island. Punglai Island was located between the upper realm and the lower realm. It also had a good inheritance. If there was an opportunity, the improvement would be very fast. Chapter 56:27. Looking at Dongfang Yu, who was as handsome as ever, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but tease him. Dongfang, with your personality, you've always been very popular with women. How come you still haven't found someone you like? Thinking back to when they were in the academy, Dongfang Yu was an extremely popular senior brother. No matter where he went, there would always be women secretly throwing flirtatious glances at him. After coming to Tiangang's sect, the situation didn't change. With his handsome appearance and his sunny personality, he was really popular. Fate hasn't arrived yet. Dongfang Yu shrugged. I'm also very helpless. Hong Zhuang, don't pay attention to him. Xia Jiqing glanced at Dongfang Yu. You don't know how many senior and junior sisters admire him in the sect. You also know his personality, he's very approachable. Every year, many of the junior sisters who join us have their hearts captured by him. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. She really believed this. A gentle, handsome, and strong senior brother. The average woman couldn't help but admire him. This guy just treats everyone as a friend, breaking their hearts. Xia Jiqing shook her head. If I were the elder sister of those junior sisters, I would definitely beat you to death. This is called passing through a field of 10,000 flowers without a single leaf touching my body. Dongfang Yu's face was proud. A real man's ambition is to travel far. I'm still young. Why would I find someone to manage me so early? Look at Xiaoqing. He doesn't even have a chance to go out now. Xia Jiqing and the others looked at each other. This was indeed a bit helpless. Dongfang, you don't have to find excuses. Can't Jiqing and I still go? You can only say that your luck is good. Dongfang Yu raised his eyebrows. If you didn't agree, you would be in trouble now. Dongfang, I think your fate hasn't arrived yet. Maybe when you go to Punglai Island or the upper realm, you'll find the woman you like. Di Beichen laughed. I think so too. Dongfang Yu's face was full of smiles. Beichen, when the time comes, I'll have to rely on you to take care of me. There are quite a few young and beautiful women in my family. However, with your personality, it's best that you don't harm them. Di Beichen shook his head. He had already experienced Yi Yi's situation once. If such a situation were to happen again in the future, he was afraid that he would not be able to withstand it. As soon as he said this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two couldn't help but laugh. Dongfang Yu's face fell. Beichen, you should at least leave me some face. We're all on the same side, so there's no need to be polite. Di Beichen patted Dongfang Yu's shoulder. Is this how you use your own people? Dongfang Yu was dumbfounded. Big brother, you're too deceitful. Ever since Lan Yunxiao changed his mind, everyone was in a good mood. Si Tian was also thinking about how to arrange the affairs of the sect. Fortunately, there were trustworthy elders in the sect. Even if he left for a period of time, there would not be any impact. As for the Lan family, Lan Yunxiao was also not worried. Although he had only regained the position of family head for a few years, the younger generation had already grown up to be very outstanding. In addition to the elders and the old family head, the Lan family would not have any problems. Mu Jins was also arranging the affairs of the sect. Everyone was busy with their own matters, but the progress was quite good. Yu Linfeng and Nangong Wu naturally decided to go as well. They couldn't miss such a good opportunity. Chapter 56:28. Something happened to the ancient profound sect. A piece of news quickly spread. Bailey Hongzhuang, and the rest who were prepared to head to Punglai Island in 2 days frowned when they heard the news. Isn't the matter already settled? What else can happen at this time? Citoyen frowned. After dealing with the sect master of the Ancient Profound Sect, the Ancient Profound Sect was clearly in a state of disunity. So many forces present would not miss this opportunity to beat a drowning dog. Even if they did not send anyone to take a look, they were able to confirm the outcome of the Ancient Profound Sect. After this matter, the Ancient Profound Sect would definitely be completely removed from the Shengxian continent. Sect Master, it's like this. Great Elder's expression was solemn. Shen Yaolong was indeed dealt with by us. However, no one would have thought that Shen Yaolong actually had an elder brother, Shen Yaoyang. Just as the major forces were preparing to overthrow the Ancient Profound Sect, Shen Yaoyang suddenly appeared and directly killed several sect masters. That kind of strength was completely beyond our imagination. After Shen Yaoyang found out that Shen Yaolong had been killed, he became even more furious and threatened to have us arrive at the Ancient Profound Sect today. Otherwise, he will kill everyone present, and then annihilate the Cloud Sword sect in our sect. Following Great Elder's words, Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest were shocked. They did not expect this matter to have such a follow-up. Shen Yaolong actually has an elder brother. Looks like they should have come to the lower realm together. Bailey Hongzhuang's brows twitched. Her phoenix eyes were filled with thoughts. Could it be that both of them are of the dark attribute? Even if they are blood brothers, their awakening might not be of the same attribute. Di Baichen shook his head. Of course, we can't rule out this possibility. However, this Shen Yaolong did not mention this matter before he died. It's really interesting. According to the news, this Shen Yaoyang's strength is much stronger than Shen Yaolong. It is said that he had just come out of seclusion and coincidentally caught up with the major forces, dealing with the Ancient Profound Sect. He was furious and killed several sect masters with a single slap. The Great Elder's face was filled with worry. Previously, Shen Yaolong alone was already very difficult to deal with. Luckily, the young sect master and eldest miss were strong enough to deal with him. Now that Shen Yaoyang, who was even stronger than Shen Yaolong, had appeared, it would be troublesome if they couldn't deal with him. Gu Yanran also didn't tell the truth. This guy is probably waiting for Shen Yaoyang to come out of seclusion to deal with us. Lan Yunxiao's gaze was gloomy. Before Gu Yanran died, he noticed that there was something wrong with his eyes, but he didn't take it to heart. Now, it seemed that there was indeed something strange going on. He had been careless. I wonder how strong Shen Yaoyang really is. Mu Lingbing couldn't help but worry. What if he's too strong? What will we do then? Mother, don't worry. Since they're brothers, if their ages aren't too different, their strength won't be too different. Bailey Hongzhuang comforted Mu Lingbing, her beautiful face serious. No matter what, let's go and take a look. Even if they stayed here, Shen Yaoyang would come to find them. Why not let them go and take a look? That's right. Yu Linfeng nodded. Let's go now. Chapter 56-29. Noticing the actions of Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest, when Xiren understood their thoughts and immediately said, "Looks like you guys have already received the news." Di Baichen nodded. "Let's go to the Ancient Profound Sect to take a look." Everyone immediately set off. Whether it was the Tiangang sect or the Cloud Sword sect, their relationship with the Ancient Profound Sect could not be considered close. Hence, they did not have a direct teleportation array, so it was inevitable that they would spend some time on the journey. I really didn't expect such an unforeseen event to happen. I wonder what kind of strength this Shen Yaoyang has. Shangguaning Ying's small face scrunched up. Luckily we haven't left yet. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. As Shangguaning Ying's voice fell, everyone couldn't help but rejoice. If Shen Yaoyang had appeared a little later, once they left, then the Tiangang sect and the Cloud Sword sect would have suffered a calamity. Ying, hearing you say this, I suddenly feel that this Shin Yaoyang has appeared at the right time. When Xiren chuckled, "Isn't that so?" Shang Guaning Ying's face was serious. "I feel that this Shin Yaoyang's strength shouldn't be much stronger than Shin Yaolong's, right? We'll have to wait until we get there before we know." Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was indifferent. Because Shin Yaolong's strength was already stronger than all the leaders of the forces, they were unable to determine how strong everyone was talking about. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were hurrying on their way, Gu Xuanzong was in a tragic situation. The smell of blood spread in the air. The once prosperous ancient profound sect now had many dilapidated walls and dilapidated walls. Some buildings had turned into ruins, and only some buildings at the back were not affected. At this moment, the disciples of the ancient mysterious sect all had terrified expressions on their faces. On the other hand, the various elders were standing behind a man in a black robe. Their expressions were bewildered, and there was also some hatred and exultation. On the other hand, the leaders of the forces were suppressed to the point of being unable to move. Cold sweat had already soaked their clothes, and their faces were extremely pale. An indescribable worry and fear spread in everyone's hearts. After seeing the tragic deaths of those people, they were worried that they would be next. As the leader of a force, they all cherished their lives. No one wanted to lose their lives here. For a moment, everyone was regretting. If they hadn't wanted to take advantage of the situation today, they wouldn't have encountered such a situation now. I wonder if the Cloud Sword sect and Tiangang sect will come? If they don't come, we're dead. They should come. Even if they don't come now, Shin Yaoyang will come knocking on their door. I hope young sect leader Wen can defeat Shin Yaoyang. Otherwise, we're really finished. Everyone sighed and placed all their hopes on Xiren. The scene of Xiren teaching Shin Yaolong a lesson was still vivid in his mind. He only hoped that he would be able to get rid of Shin Yaolong this time. In reality, after these few days, they understood that the Cloudsword sect and Tiangang sect didn't have the intention of unifying the powers of the entire Xingxian continent, so they were extremely at ease. As long as they could get rid of Shin Yaoyang, everything would return to normal. Shin Yaoyang looked at the leaders of the forces who didn't have the slightest bit of resistance in front of him, and his eyes were filled with ridicule. Chapter 56:30. Following Shin Yaoyang's words, everyone's hearts were in their throats as they nervously looked at Shin Yaoyang. Shin Yaoyang's strength made them feel incomparable despair. As long as Shin Yaoyang had the intention to kill, none of them present would be able to defeat him. "Shin Yaoyang, why are you so sure that I won't come?" When Xiren and the others heard these words as soon as they returned, they immediately responded. Hearing this, everyone quietly heaved a sigh of relief and looked at Xiren and the rest with anticipation. Now, when Xiren and the rest were saviors in their eyes, all their hopes were placed on him. If Xiren could deal with Shin Yaoyang, they would be able to save their lives. Shin Yaoyang turned his head and looked at Xiren and the rest who were slowly walking over. His eyes were filled with hostility. "You're Xiren?" "That's right, I am," Xiren said coldly. Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest were sizing up Shin Yaoyang in front of them. His appearance was quite similar to Shin Yaolong's, so they could tell at a glance that the two were brothers. "You're the one who killed my younger brother." Shin Yaoyang's voice suddenly turned cold, and an endless pressure erupted. Feeling the aura that Shin Yaoyang released, Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest's expressions changed slightly. Nebula Realm. This guy's cultivation had actually reached the Nebula Realm. What attribute? Di Beichen's eyes narrowed. Shin Yaoyang's is not of the darkness attribute, but of the wood attribute. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. When Shin Yaoyang's aura erupted, he had already revealed his attribute talent. Indeed, it was not of the darkness attribute. It seems that Shin Yaoyang and Shin Yaolong's relationship is really good. Because Shin Yaolong couldn't survive in the upper realm, Shin Yaoyang accompanied him to the lower realm. Regarding this, she was also quite helpless. If Shin Yaolong didn't have the idea of annexing all the forces, things wouldn't have ended up like this. In the end, it was his own fault. You're just a Nebula level 2 cultivator, yet you dare to make a move on my brother. As soon as he said this, the hopeful eyes of the leaders of the various forces instantly dimmed. They were filled with dejection and despair. I didn't expect that even young sect master Wen wasn't a match for Shen Yaoyang. I'm afraid we're really finished this time. Who would have thought that there was another Shen Yaoyang besides Shen Yaolong? I just hope that Shen Yaoyang won't be too ruthless. Everyone sighed. Even though the two of them hadn't fought yet, and they didn't know what the Starlight Realm was, they weren't fools and could tell from the exchange. Just as Shen Yaoyang finished speaking, his figure had already flown up. His aura was locked tightly onto Xiren, and the viciousness and hostility on his face were fully displayed. Bang! A ferocious fist with boundless chi energy pierced through the air towards Xiren's vitals. The crowd didn't expect Shen Yaoyang to make a move so quickly, and were instantly shocked. Xiren, be careful! Shangguan Yingying shouted. The strength of a nebula realm wasn't something that Xiren could contend against. Xiren's reaction speed wasn't slow either. After seeing Shen Yaoyang make a move, he immediately retreated. He didn't intend to face a Starlight Realm cultivator head-on. Trying to run? No way. Shen Yaoyang snorted coldly, but his gaze was locked onto Bailey Hongzhuang, who was in the crowd. Chapter 56-31. No one expected Shen Yaoyang to change his target midway. In an instant, Shen Yaoyang's attack landed in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. Lan Yunxiao and the rest were shocked, but by the time they reacted and wanted to stop it, it was already too late. The leaders of all the forces present couldn't help but close their eyes, because they could already imagine the scene of Bailey Hongzhuang's death. Bailey Hongzhuang originally wanted to help when she saw Shen Yaoyang attacking Xiren, but she didn't expect this guy to suddenly change his target to her. This was great. She didn't even need to chase after him. Shen Yaoyang's fist enlarged in front of Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. He didn't have any tender feelings for the fairer sex, and his black pupils were filled with cruelty and ruthlessness. Shen Yaolong was his only younger brother, so he also wanted to let Xiren have a taste of what it felt like to personally see someone he cared about die. He wouldn't kill Xiren first. He wanted to kill everyone by Xiren's side one by one. He wanted to let Xiren experience this kind of despair and pain before dying. Bang! Just as Shen Yaoyang's fist was about to land on Bailey Hongzhuang's face, Bailey Hongzhuang also made her move. Her slender arms were unable to withstand a single blow from the big fist. Shen Yaoyang ridiculed in his heart, but when he noticed Bailey Hongzhuang's calm expression without any trace of fear, a trace of doubt flashed through his heart. Ta-ta-ta! A figure was sent flying out. Everyone sighed, but when they saw clearly, they realized that the person who flew out wasn't Bailey Hongzhuang, but Shen Yaoyang. Shen Yaoyang retreated several steps before stabilizing himself. When he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang again, his expression was no longer as confident and arrogant as before. Nebula 7th Order? His deep voice was filled with disbelief. Shen Yaoyang couldn't believe that this young woman's strength had actually reached the Nebula 7th Order. That's right. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and slowly walked forward. Her exquisite and dazzling face was filled with coldness and disdain. You really know how to pick people to fight. The cold voice caused Shen Yaoyang's expression to stiffen. He didn't understand why he randomly picked such an opponent. If he had known this would happen, he would have directly attacked Xiren. Xiren couldn't help but chuckle. Among them, apart from Di Beichen, Hongzhuang's strength was the strongest. This guy actually chose Hongzhuang, and gave himself a resounding slap to his face. Even if you're at the Nebula 7th Order, you still can't beat me. Shen Yaoyang's eyes flashed coldly. The reason why he was at a disadvantage before was because he did not think that Bailey Hongzhuang would be so strong, so he did not use his full strength. Therefore, he fell into a disadvantage. Di Beichen, what's this guy's strength? Shangguan Yingying couldn't help but worry. She originally thought that this guy wasn't Hong Zhuang's opponent, so they didn't need to worry. But now, it seemed that this guy's strength wasn't any weaker than Hong Zhuang's. At the same time, Lan Yunxiao and the others all looked at Di Beichen, wanting to know the result. This guy should also be at the Nebula 7th Order, Di Beichen slowly said. Following Di Beichen's words, Lan Yunxiao and the others' hearts were once again in suspense. With the same level of cultivation, it was really hard to tell who was stronger and who was weaker. Chapter 56-32. If the other party's strength was much stronger than Hong Zhuang's, they would still be worried. However, in the face of cultivators of the same cultivation level, Hong Zhuang had never lost. Then you can try. Bailey Hong Zhuang's expression was indifferent. Her bright and beautiful face was surrounded by a confident luster. That strong and dazzling confidence rendered everyone present. Shen Yaoyang snorted coldly, and his figure swept out again. This time, he no longer had the slightest bit of carelessness. This woman in front of him was the key to obstructing him today. Only by dealing with her could everything be completed. The leaders of the forces who had long lost hope were once again rekindled with hope. This was probably the second time in history that they had such a mood of ups and downs. I didn't expect young Palace Master Bailey's strength to be even stronger than young Sect Master one. Young Palace Master Bailey's reputation was already very well known in the past. It seems that she has also gained a lot in these few years of experience outside. Now Wuji Palace and the Lan family really can't be provoked. Countless thoughts flashed through everyone's mind. In the past, because the Lan family, Tiangang sect, and many other forces had united together, they had already become an unshakable existence. Now needless to say, with such terrifying strength, who could shake them? However, just as Shen Yaoyang attacked again, a tall and straight figure was already standing in front of Bailey Hong Zhuang. With me here, how can I let my wife take action? Di Beichen's lips curled up slightly. His wild and unrestrained voice was domineering and protective. A trace of cold light quietly flashed through the depths of his eyes. This guy was so arrogant to attack Hong Zhuang in front of him. Did he treat him as if he didn't exist? After seeing this scene, everyone's expression changed again. How could they forget that Di Beichen was also an extremely outstanding existence? Shen Yaoyang couldn't help but be dumbfounded. Wasn't Xiren the only guy? The sudden appearance of Bailey Hong Zhuang was one thing, but now there was Di Beichen. Who knew if there would be another guy? Just Bailey Hong Zhuang was already troublesome enough for him. If there was another Nebula 7th Order cultivator, just in terms of numbers, the other party would have already won. When Di Beichen saw that Shen Yaoyang was in a daze, he didn't waste any time. His body turned into a bolt of lightning and directly rushed out. Black energy lingered in his hands, and a terrifying chi swept out in an instant. Boom! The ferocious punch directly blasted the air, bringing along an ear-piercing explosion sound as it headed towards Shen Yaoyang. Shen Yaoyang's first reaction was to dodge, but Di Beichen seemed to have already predicted how he would dodge. His attack turned around halfway and landed directly where Shen Yaoyang was dodging. Shen Yaoyang felt uneasy, but he was unable to dodge again. Bang! The unavoidable punch mercilessly landed on Shen Yaoyang's face. No matter the angle or position, it was exactly the same as when Shen Yaoyang attacked Bailey Hong Zhuang previously. Kacha! The crisp sound of bones breaking rang out. Shen Yaoyang's body flew out again. However, this time was much more difficult than the previous time. The bridge of his nose was broken. Blood flowed continuously from his nose. Shen Yaoyang endured the pain and used his sleeve to wipe the nosebleed, but it didn't stop at all. On the contrary, the nosebleed blurred his entire face. Where was the arrogant and proud look from before? Damn it! Shen Yaoyang cursed. There was a trace of fear in his eyes. Chapter 5633. Shen Yaoyang was about to die from anger. Wasn't there no cultivator above the purple realm in this lower realm? It was because of this that he allowed Shen Yaolong to do whatever he wanted while he found a place to go into seclusion. However, not only did a Nebula Rank 2 and Nebula Rank 7 appear, there was even a Nebula Rank 8 cultivator. Do you really think that you are the only Nebula Realm cultivator in the lower realm? Di Baichen sneered. Shen Yaoyang looked at the figure in front of him and didn't say anything, because he really thought so. You are a dark attribute cultivator. Then how did you reach the Nebula Realm? After knowing that he wasn't a match for him, Shen Yaoyang didn't want to make a move. A Starlight Rank 8 was already stronger than him, plus Bailey Hongzhuang and Xiren. The result was obvious. However, he couldn't understand. Dark attribute cultivators didn't have a suitable cultivation method, so it was impossible to reach the Nebula Realm. Could it be that there was a cultivation method in the lower realm? What's the use of you knowing all this now? Di Baichen was too lazy to talk to Shen Yaoyang. A Nebula Rank 7 couldn't cause any impact in the upper realm, but it was enough to cause a huge uproar in the lower realm. It was fine if he was strict with himself, but he had to be killed for doing evil. Therefore, Di Baichen's attack was merciless and swept out again. Before leaving the lower realm, he had to deal with all the dangers that might appear. Shen Yaoyang knew that he wasn't a match for Di Baichen and tried to escape, but he didn't expect that Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Baichen had already seen through his trick and blocked his path. Bang bang bang. A loud and frightening sound echoed. Shen Yaoyang resisted with all his might, but Di Baichen and Bailey Hongzhuang didn't show any mercy. Shangguan Yingying couldn't help but cover her eyes. I can't help but pity Shen Yaoyang. With Di Baichen and his wife making a move, he's doomed. Who asked him to be unlucky? This is the result of not being able to show off. When Xiren shrugged, this outcome was within his expectations. Boom! Another loud crashing sound rang out. Another huge crater appeared in the ancient profound sect. Shen Yaoyang also fell into it. Cough cough. Shen Yaoyang coughed and spat out blood. The combat power of these two people was beyond his imagination. He didn't even have the chance to escape. From the very beginning, this matter was started by your younger brother working with the ancient profound sect. If it weren't for you all having such malicious intentions, things wouldn't have ended up like this. If you want to blame someone, you can only blame yourselves. Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly as she looked at Shen Yaoyang, whose face was pale and didn't seem to be able to live for much longer. The people of the lower realms were not in the wrong. It was only because they relied on their own strength that they did not care about the lives of others. Such a person deserved to be in such a situation. Shen Yaoyang stared fixedly at the two people above. He could not help but feel regret in his heart. If he had known that this would happen, he would not have hooted here earlier. It was never too late for a gentleman to take revenge. Unfortunately, he had no chance at all now. Clap clap. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Baichen clapped their hands and walked back to the group with smiles on their faces. Now we can leave in peace. This kind of thing shouldn't happen again. Di Baichen said with a smile. Chapter 5634. Only then did the leaders of the various forces regain their senses. The situation before them had changed so quickly that it was completely beyond their imagination. Shen Yaoyang, who they thought was impossible to deal with, fell into the hands of Di Baichen and his wife, and was so easily dealt with. However, in the process of fighting, they still felt the horror of the super strength. Ancient profound sect had now completely turned into ruins. The elders and cultivators who were originally watching had already begun to flee when they realized that the situation was not good. In a short period of time, they had already disappeared without a trace. If it was said that everyone was still thinking of reviving ancient profound sect if they had the chance, now that they had personally witnessed the tyrannical strength of Di Baichen and his wife, They had already completely erased this thought from their minds. What kind of joke was this? With such a strong strength, it was impossible to deal with them. The leaders of the various forces walked over one after another and cupped their hands to apologize to Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Young Sect Master D, Young Palace Master Bailey, thank you very much for your help today. Sect Master Situ Lan Family Head, you are really lucky. If there is a place where we are needed in the future, we will definitely rush over at the first moment. Hearing this familiar sentence, when Jinghui snorted coldly, he would no longer believe these words. Among them, a few familiar leaders of the various forces smiled awkwardly. Even if they were smiling, one could feel the hesitation and helplessness in their hearts. After offending such an expert, it was really difficult to eat and sleep in peace. After Bailey Hongzhuang and the others returned to Tiangang sect, they did not immediately set off for Penglai Island. After the incident with Shen Yaoyang, everyone felt that it was safer to first clarify the matter before leaving. If another person related to them appeared after they left, wouldn't the world be in chaos again? Taking advantage of this time, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen also made a trip to Limitless Palace. Thinking back, Bailey Hongzhuang also stayed in Limitless Palace for a while and made a lot of friends here. Although when she first arrived, her identity was criticized, fortunately, all the rumors were put to rest. Reappearing in Limitless Palace again, the elders and cultivators were extremely welcoming. Have you heard? Our young palace master is a nebulous stage 8 existence. So many sect masters aren't his match. The young palace master has always been so powerful. I heard that the young sect master is coming back this time to select some cultivators to go and gain experience. This is a good opportunity. Everyone has to seize it. The entire Limitless Palace was in full swing after this news was spread. Almost all the disciples were discussing this matter. They were thinking about how to perform well, so that they wouldn't miss this good opportunity. Hongzhuang, which disciples do you plan to choose this time? Nangong Wu laughed lightly. Going to Penglai Island, I'm afraid there can't be too many people, right? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. The practitioners on Penglai Island are all very powerful. If the practitioners who go there are too weak, it will be difficult for them to develop, even if they have someone to protect them. Therefore, we mainly choose practitioners who have reached the Purple Realm. Nangong Wu smiled and said, however, there are not many cultivators who can cultivate to the Purple Realm. Some elders can take advantage of this opportunity to gain experience. Mistress, since you're so familiar with this situation, I'll leave it to you. Chapter 56-35. After discussing with Di Beichen this time, Bailey Hongzhuang made the decision to select some cultivators from each force to go to Penglai Island. At the same time, they would distribute some of the cultivation resources they brought back to each force, hoping that more cultivators would be able to advance to the Purple Realm and above. In this way, as everyone's strength steadily increased, they would be able to slowly develop even in the upper realm. Although it would take a long time, as long as they could achieve this result, it was not a big deal to spend a long time. Since the elders can also go, then the choice is a lot bigger. Nangong Wu was in high spirits. I'll make the arrangements right now. Oh right, Hongzhuang, you're the young palace master after all. This time, you finally came back. Why don't you open a small lecture hall? Now that everyone is very curious about your situation, it's good to introduce them to encourage them to work hard in their cultivation. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang was stunned at first, then she smiled helplessly. I understand. Master, I think that if you have nothing to do in the future, it's not bad to be a teacher. Xiaohei could not help but tease. Every time Master opened a lecture hall, she would be very popular. Bailey Hongzhuang reached out and flicked Xiaohei's forehead. You're quite bold. You even dare to tease Master. He occasionally. At this moment, a familiar voice sounded. Master, did you miss me? Hearing this funny voice, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other, and a smile appeared in their eyes. Xiao Xuanzi, you're finally out. Xiao Xuanzi had been in seclusion before. This guy was always noisy when he was around. They were not used to his absence during this period of time. Hee master, I knew you missed me. Xiao Xuanzi looked proud, flapped his wings and came in front of Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang patted Xiao Xuanzi's head, and suddenly said, Didn't you say that you won't come out until you've cultivated to the point where you can transform into a human? Could it be that he has already succeeded? Speaking of which, she was really looking forward to Xiao Xuanzi's appearance after he transformed into a human. This guy was obviously a little perverted beast. If his looks were ordinary, then it would be fine. But if he was really handsome and elegant, then he would really be busy with his love affairs in the future. Xiao Xuanzi's expression froze slightly, then he shook his head and said, No, I came out first because I missed you guys. A trace of disappointment flashed through her beautiful pitch-black eyes before they brightened again. You're the one who's the most talkative. Xiao He and Xiao Bai looked at Xiao Xuanzi, who was acting cute in front of them, and could not help but curl their lips. In my opinion, you came out because you encountered a bottleneck in your cultivation and could not improve, right? Nonsense. Xiao Xuanzi immediately retorted. I'm such a genius, how could I possibly encounter a bottleneck? Haha, Xiao Bai said. At this time, Bai Li Yanche and Linger also came out. Yanche, tell us quickly, is what Xiao Xuanzi said true? Xiao He saw Bai Li Yanche appear, and her eyes immediately lit up. She quickly jumped onto him and asked curiously, Yanche? Xiao Xuanzi hurriedly called out and gave him a look. Bai Li Yanche faced everyone's different gazes, and the corner of his mouth moved. Then he said, Let Xiao Xuanzi say this kind of thing himself. Chapter 56-36. Seeing that Bai Li Yanche's words had a hidden meaning, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others couldn't help but become curious, and they all turned to look at Xiao Xuanzi. It seemed that the situation wasn't as simple as Xiao Xuanzi said. Xiao Xuanzi, what's the situation? You'd better tell us honestly. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. Normally, this little guy was lively and fearless all day long. Being so shy today was really not in line with his style. She didn't know what was going on. Actually, it's really nothing. I'm just a little lazy, right? Linga. Xiao Xuanzi turned his hope to Linger. Bai Li Yanche, that hateful guy. He had already asked for help before. But this guy still didn't have the slightest intention of covering up for him after coming out. Seeing that Xiao Xuanzi actually asked Linger to cover up for him, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were even more surprised. One had to know that Linger was the one who was the least likely to cover up for others. Sure enough, Linger spoke. It has already cultivated to the nebula realm. Clang. Xiao Xuanzi was petrified. He looked at Linger in disbelief. He originally thought that Bai Li Yanche was already very disloyal for not covering up for him. Linger, on the other hand, completely sold him out the moment she opened her mouth. Linger, you. Linger's expression was very calm. I'm just telling the truth. Xiao Xuanzi covered his face. Xiao Xuanzi, breaking through to the nebula realm is a good thing. Why can't you say it? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and looked at Xiao Xuanzi suspiciously. A guess had already appeared in her mind. Xiao Xuanzi, you wouldn't be like us, unable to transform into a human even after breaking through to the nebula realm, right? Xiao Hei's eyes lit up, and she quickly thought of this possibility. It and Xiao Bai were currently unable to transform at all. Previously, Xiao Xuanzi had been using this to tease them. If Xiao Xuanzi was unable to do it now, then it would be interesting. Hearing this, Xiao Xuanzi paused for a moment, then slowly nodded and said, More or less. My situation is similar to yours. Your attitude is a little perfunctory. Di Beichen looked at Xiao Xuanzi, whose attitude was ambiguous, and suddenly chuckled. Could it be that your image after the transformation is not good-looking? Bailey Hongzhuang also said. It can't be an ugly person, right? After noticing Xiao Xuanzi's strange behavior, such a thought had already appeared in her mind. After all, previously, Xiao Xuanzi had always hoped that after he broke through to the nebula realm, he would be able to transform into a handsome man. Logically speaking, if he succeeded, he would definitely be impatient to tell everyone about this situation. However, now that he was so hesitant, perhaps some changes had occurred in the situation. As soon as these words came out, Xiao Xuanzi seemed to have been poked in a sore spot. The entire beast jumped up and hurriedly flapped its wings. That's not the case. However, no one paid attention to Xiao Xuanzi's refutation. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other, and a playful smile appeared on their faces at the same time. As expected of Xiao Xuanzi's master, you guessed it right. Linga slowly said. This sentence was like a heavy hammer that settled everything. Even if Xiao Xuanzi wanted to refute, looking at everyone's expression, it understood that its refutation had no meaning. It was exposed. He had been completely exposed. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. Chapter 56-37. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen also couldn't help but laugh. The corners of their lips twitched slightly, and their eyes were full of smiles. They remembered that Xiao Xuanzi had been fantasizing about replacing by Li Yanqei to stop the crazy bees and butterflies. Now it seemed that this plan was ruined. No wonder this little guy was not as naughty as he used to be. This incident must have been a big blow to him. Xiao Xuanzi, did you really become ugly after transforming into a human? Xiao Bai looked at Xiao Xuanzi seriously after laughing and asked. Nonsense. Xiao Xuanzi quickly denied. I'm not an ugly freak. Are you serious? Why don't you transform into a human, and let us see it now? Xiao He looked doubtful. It's said that like master like contracted beast. Just by looking at my master's appearance, you can tell that my appearance is definitely not bad. Don't slander me. Xiao Xuanzi looked unconvinced, and his wings directly pointed at Di Beichen. Seeing that Xiao Xuanzi suddenly shifted the topic to himself, Di Beichen was slightly startled, and said, This matter has nothing to do with me. Master, you're not giving me face. Di Beichen chuckled, touched Xiao Xuanzi's head and said, Don't keep us in suspense. Show us what you look like. We won't dislike you. Actually, I'm really not ugly. I'm just a little fat. As soon as he said that, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen immediately understood. The two carefully looked at Xiao Xuanzi's current body shape. After transforming into a human, such a situation was indeed possible. You're just a little fat. It's nothing at all. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. We're all on the same side. We won't mind. Just show us. No. Absolutely not. Xiao Xuanzi refused without hesitation. I want to lose weight. I'll show you after I've lost weight. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at each other. They knew that this little guy had always been very concerned about this, so they did not continue to ask. Then we'll be waiting to see your handsome appearance. No problem. Just wait patiently. Xiao Xuanzi said proudly. After little Xuanzi left, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and asked, Yanqei, how fat is little Xuanzi? You are indeed a little fat. Bai Li Yanqei shrugged, his eyes full of smiles. With Xiao Xuanzi's gluttonous nature, I'm afraid it will be a little difficult for him to lose weight. Di Beichen pondered, because this guy just said that he wanted to lose weight, and now he had already gone out to eat. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded with a heavy expression. What you said makes sense. Although Xiao He and Xiao Bai had been pestering Xiao Xuanzi to see his true appearance, Xiao Xuanzi had always stuck to his bottom line, and was unwilling to transform into a human no matter what. Even when Xiao Hei took out her favorite pig trotter as bait, it did not succeed. In these few days, the impact caused by Shen Yaoyang's appearance had dissipated, and the ancient profound sect was removed from the Shengxian continent. The other forces also began to eagerly contact the Tiangang sect and the Cloud Sword sect, wanting to get closer to each other. Regarding this, Si Tu Yin did not refuse. They would soon head to the Penglai Island, and temporarily could not oversee the sect. Building a good relationship with the other forces was also a good choice. Chapter 5638. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen took advantage of this time to go to Shitian Pavilion. This time, Mo Yunjue did not come back and only asked them to deliver the letter. They naturally kept this matter in mind. Shitian Pavilion had always been an extremely mysterious existence among the many forces in Shengxian continent. However, with the improvement of their cultivation, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were no longer as dangerous as before. When Shitian Pavilion's master saw Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen, he was extremely surprised. However, when he saw the familiar handwriting on the letter, his expression suddenly changed. After thanking them, he did not say anything else. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen did not stay for long. They did not know the situation of Shitian Pavilion, but since Yunju was not willing to come back, he must have his reasons. What should be done was done. As for the rest, Yunju must have his own plans. However, the two did not expect that when they were about to leave Shitian Pavilion's sphere of influence, Shitian Pavilion's master would appear in front of them again. Looking at Shitian Pavilion's master in front of them, the two looked at each other with some doubts in their hearts. I know that the two of you are nobles. I asked the two of you to take care of Yunju. Hearing this, the two of them were slightly stunned. Then they nodded and said, "Rest assured, Pavilion Master. We are good friends. We will definitely support each other." "That's good. I am relieved." After walking for a while, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but say, "In the past, I heard that Shitian Pavilion's master has a very strange personality. He is bloodthirsty and cruel. However, today, it seems that this is not the case." Shitian Pavilion was a very terrifying force for many cultivators. This place seemed to be shrouded in darkness. Everything was mysterious and hidden. For Mo Yunjue to be able to possess such outstanding strength at such a young age, it went without saying that he cultivated extremely hard. The Heaven Slaughter Pavilion's cruel methods of training cultivators were extremely famous. It was unknown if he, as the young pavilion master, had also experienced all of this. Even a vicious tiger will not eat its cubs. Perhaps Shitian Pavilion's master is perverse and cruel, but after all he is his son. He still has concerns. Di Beichen said slowly. Bailey Hongzhuang sighed. Perhaps there is some misunderstanding between Yunju and Shitian Pavilion's master. That is why he is unwilling to come back this time. When we go back, we can tell Yunju about this situation. Okay. After everything was ready, Bailey Hongzhuang's group did not delay, and went to Penglai Island in groups. A group of disciples began to move under the lead of the elders, while Bailey Hongzhuang and the others took the lead. And Shitian Pavilion's master Shitian Pavilion. But there are a lot of people here, Shitian Pavilions. And Hongzhuang's Hongstian Bing. Mu was also Ling was. Tian Hongzha. Mu Ling Bing also found it strange. "Hongzhuang, why don't you bring some people over first and split into two groups?" Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. "No need, let's go together." "But this flying car can't fit at all. Could it be that this flying car can become bigger?" Nan Gongwu carefully sized up the flying car in front of her. The treasures of the upper realm had infinite possibilities. Perhaps it would have such a special effect. That's not it. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. I'm going to take you there in another way. Chapter 5639. In front of him was a huge black and white palace. At first glance, it gave off a grand and majestic feeling. Taking a closer look at the patterns on the building, he could feel its powerful foundation. After a short moment of shock, everyone was even more curious about why they had appeared in this place. Hong Zhuang, where is this place? Lan Yinxiao was shocked. In the blink of an eye, they had appeared in another place. This was simply too unbelievable. This shouldn't be your secret, right? Yu Linfeng suddenly asked. Just like his stairway to heaven, it was an independent space that was different from the outside world. All of them had suddenly appeared in another place. It was impossible for them to have teleported. The biggest possibility was that they had entered another space. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and nodded. Master, you're so smart. Once she said this, everyone was slightly startled. Then they all understood. I knew that you must have a secret for your strength to increase so quickly. I didn't expect it to be such a big secret. Nan Gongwu chuckled, but she was more concerned. This palace looks unusual. You can't tell anyone about this so easily. Mistress, don't worry. I understand. Bailey Hongzhuang's heart was warm. Actually, not many people know about this. I'm only telling you now. Previously, she was too weak. Once the existence of the Chaos Ring was known, it would be very difficult for her to protect it. Now that her strength had gradually increased, she could be a little more at ease. Moreover, everyone in front of her was her family. They could be completely trusted, so she did not need to worry. Compared to the joy of Si Tuyen and the others, Wen Jinghui's feelings were undoubtedly the most complicated. The others were Hong Zhuang's family, but he was not at that level. However, just by looking at Siren and Shengguan Yingying's habitual expressions, he knew that these two little guys already knew about it. While he was sighing, he also felt a little gratified. The friendship between these little fellows was really extraordinarily stable. Don't worry, I will definitely not leak this news, Wen Jinghui said. Hearing this, everyone turned their gazes. After noticing Wen Jinghui's serious expression, everyone could not help but smile at each other. Sect Master Wen, we all believe in you. Xiren and Shengguan Yingying also had smiles on their faces. My father is absolutely trustworthy in this regard. Because the flying car can't fit all of us, we'll stay here for the time being. We'll leave when we reach Penglai Island, Bailey Hongzhuang said. She had already thought of this problem when she was preparing to set off. He didn't have to keep this a secret from his loved ones. I see. No problem. Lan Yinxiao nodded. This place is more suitable for cultivation. We'll reach Penglai Island in a few days. Di Beichen steered the flying car towards Penglai Island, while Bailey Hongzhuang led everyone on a tour around the Chaos Ring. In the end, everyone chose a place to cultivate in peace. At present, everyone was wholeheartedly hoping to increase their cultivation bases as soon as possible. After all, the pressure of heading to the upper plane was considerable. Increasing their cultivation bases by just a little bit would allow them to feel more at ease. Chapter 5640. Going to Penglai Island again. Di Beichen was undoubtedly familiar with the road. The flying car had become his magic tool, and he could control it easily. The people on the ground only saw something flying through the air, but they didn't know what it was. The elders rushed to Penglai Island with the cultivators, and their speed was undoubtedly much slower. However, everyone's heart was full of excitement, especially after seeing the powerful strength of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. They were full of yearning for Penglai Island. To a cultivator, there was nothing more exciting than strength. At this moment, Xia Jiqing, Bai Junyu, and Dongfang Yu were sitting together on the flying magic tool. The three of them were also very curious about all this. Hongzhuang, does the upper realm have many things that the lower realm doesn't have? This flying car is very amazing. I haven't even heard of it before, let alone seen it. Xia Jiqing's face was full of curiosity. After learning about a more powerful and mysterious world, they were not worried about the future, but longing and yearning. Bailey Hongzhuang thought about it and nodded. In some ways, yes. In fact, the difference between the upper realm and the lower realm is not big, but the things there are more comprehensive. In the lower realm, the most prominent thing is alchemy. In the upper realm, alchemy, inscription, forging, array, and so on are very good. The same is true for cultivation methods. There is a more comprehensive way of cultivation that can help cultivators improve their cultivation. Hearing this, Bai Junyu and the others were all excited and couldn't help but look forward to it. Listening to you, I am even more looking forward to the upper realm. Xia Jiqing rubbed her hands and smiled. Penglai Island is also a very challenging place. I believe you will have a lot of rewards here. With the flying magic tool, even if the distance was far, they still arrived quickly. This time, because they were more familiar with the path, their speed was faster. 7 days later, everyone successfully arrived at Penglai Island. Everyone looked at the islands in front of them, and there was surprise and emotion in their eyes. It turns out that this is Penglai Island. There are really many islands. Xia Jiqing couldn't help but sigh. The edge of the island was surrounded by clouds and mist, and it looked like a fairyland from a distance. She had only seen such a place in her dreams. She had never thought that it would actually exist. What a magical place. Dongfang Yu's eyebrows rose slightly, his handsome face revealing a pleasantly surprised expression. Sure enough, this place is different from the outside world. It's even more mystical with just a glance. Looking at the appearance of Xia Jiqing and the others, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. When they first came to Penglai Island, they also had the same feeling. However, at that time, they were being chased all the way and did not have the leisure to appreciate all of this. They only thought that it would be good enough if they could safely escape. When Bailey Hongzhuang and her group appeared on Penglai Island again, everyone's eyes fell on them. It had to be said that Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Baichen were extremely conspicuous. After the previous battle on the Scarlet Moon Island, the strength of the two of them made everyone understand how powerful they were, and how they could not fight against them. Now that the two had appeared again, it was no surprise that they would attract everyone's attention. Chapter 5641. Why are there so many people around Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Baichen? Also, these people look unfamiliar. These people must be coming to Penglai Island for the first time. Don't tell me they brought their relatives here? That's too much. Penglai Island is not a place that just anyone can come to. One of the cultivators frowned. They had all come to Penglai Island because their strength had reached the standard. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Baichen had brought all their relatives here without a second thought. That was too inappropriate. Hearing the man's words, the person next to him patted his head and said, "Do you want to die? Speak softly." Even if Bailey Hongzhuang and the others broke the rules, so what? Even sect leader Yuan of the Crimson Moon sect was no match for her. She can bring whoever she wants here. Everyone looked at each other. Even though this situation made them speechless, no one dared to say anything. Who asked the other party to be so powerful? In everyone's eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang was more powerful than the sect leader of the Crimson Moon sect. Unless you were more powerful than her, you would be courting death. Moreover, there was still Di Beichen. Even though Di Beichen did not make a move at that time, everyone knew that Di Beichen was more powerful than Bailey Hongzhuang. On top of that, this guy was undoubtedly protective of his wife. No one was willing to offend Bailey Hongzhuang. Mu Lingbing looked around Penglai Island with a faint smile on her beautiful face. It's really lively here. But Hongzhuang, why do I feel like everyone here knows you? Even though they were far away, and she could not hear the discussions clearly, she could still vaguely hear Hongzhuang and Beichen's names. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly startled. She looked around, and the cultivators who were originally sizing them up immediately retracted their gazes, not daring to look again. Because we used to be inner palace disciples of the Penglai Palace. Everyone is more familiar with us. That's right. Besides, Hongzhuang and the others are so outstanding. It's normal for everyone to know them. Nangongwu was very optimistic. With the combination of Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen, no matter where they appeared, they would definitely attract attention. Let's go to the Penglai Palace first. The sect master and Lord Long are very familiar with us. When the elders and disciples arrive, we will have to rely on them to take care of us, Di Beichen said slowly. Citoyen nodded. Indeed, we should settle everyone down first. Only then can we leave with peace of mind. When Bai Tsangming, Long Yanwei, and the others heard that Bailey Hongzhuang had returned, they immediately came out to welcome her. As they already knew the purpose of Bailey Hongzhuang and Long Yanwei's return, Bai Tsangming and Long Yanwei were not surprised to see so many people. Hongzhuang, you're here. Hall Master Bai, we'll have to trouble you again, Bailey Hongzhuang said with a smile. We're already so familiar with each other. Why are you still being so courteous? Bai Tsangming waved his hand, as if saying that they were on the same side, and there was no need to be courteous with him. After everyone sat down to rest, Di Beichen said, Hall Master, we really have something to ask of you this time. Chapter 56-42. While Bailey Hongzhuang and Long Yanwei were conversing with Bai Tsangming, Si Tian, and the others were sizing him up. When they entered the Penglai Palace, they knew that the Penglai Palace was a very large sect. Along the way, they felt that the cultivators' auras were all in the purple realm. Some of the cultivators' auras even made them feel dangerous. As a palace master whose basic disciple was at the purple realm, he must be an extremely powerful existence. Now, the palace master's attitude towards Hongzhuang was actually so polite. They could not help but feel proud. Our clan's cultivators will arrive in a few days. At that time, I hope that the palace master can take care of them. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. She understood that the cultivators who came this time might not be as powerful as the cultivators from Penglai Palace. However, as long as the palace master was willing to take care of them, there would be no problem. If they stayed here, they naturally did not need to worry at all. No one would provoke them. However, they would be heading to the upper realm very soon. At that time, they would need someone to take care of them. Since they had brought them here, they had to be responsible. Bai Tsangming also understood when he heard that. He originally thought that Bailey Hongzhuang wanted to bring everyone to the upper realm. He did not expect that Bailey Hongzhuang had such a plan. From the looks of it, Bailey Hongzhuang still had her own forces outside. It was because it was inconvenient to bring the entire clan over that she made such an arrangement. Both Bai Tsangming and Long Yanwei understood Bailey Hongzhuang's overall plan. Bailey Hongzhuang wanted to bring the entire clan to become powerful. She even wanted to move the entire clan to the upper realm. Although this plan seemed very shocking now, it was not impossible to implement it in detail. Don't worry. Leave this matter to me. Bai Tsangming agreed without hesitation. He was actually not worried that Bailey Hongzhuang would have a request. On the contrary, he was worried that Bailey Hongzhuang would not have a request. With the current status of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, they would definitely be extremely terrifying existences in the future. There was absolutely no harm in being on good terms with such people. Thank you, Palace Master Bai. Seeing that Bai Songming agreed so readily, Bailey Hongzhuang also secretly heaved a sigh of relief. A relaxed smile appeared on her face. You're welcome. With our friendship, this is only a small matter. Palace Master Bai. Actually, we also understand that the cultivators from our clan are not as strong as the other disciples. So when the time comes, it will inevitably cause some trouble. Bai Songming chuckled. Hongzhuang, you're overthinking this matter. Actually, as long as they know that they are your people, they will not be blind. Bai Songming and Long Yanwei. He's in Yanwei's Hongzhuang and Hongzhuang Yanwei's in Yanwei's. If you don't worry. And the Hongzhuang you, Yanwei's you. Songming you. You. May. You're tuning in to the Li Mei Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.